Good evening, Pueblo, Colorado. The date is Monday, August 17th. The time is 5:30, and I now call this work session, Pueblo City Council, to order. First up on the council's agenda this evening, I'd like to invite our Mayor Heather Graham for our city update. Mayor Graham, we have you on our agenda for 5 minutes.
No updates tonight. I'll save them for the budget presentation.
No update. Okay, thank you. All right, moving right along with our agenda, I would like to recognize President Mark Aliff, who will speak to us regarding the pet relief shelter. When you're ready, President Aliff. Okay, when you're ready, President Aliff, we have you 15 minutes for your presentation.
It's all.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as many, excuse me, I'm going to try and get through this the best that I can. As all of you know, or all of at least the council and the mayor, in April, my wife passed away due to a bad car accident she had in December. And, you know, one of the things that was most important to my wife was her compassion and her empathy for those who had less than we did. One of the big things with her was animals. Animals was a huge, huge issue. And it was such a deal for my wife that she used to drive around with dog food and supplies, and she would specifically target homeless people with pets. She felt always whenever she'd see somebody out with pets that was homeless, that it just really shook her to her core, and it meant so much to her to be able to share whatever she had. So she'd make me buy dog food every Wednesday. I'd load it up in the car, and we had a lot of old, because we've had plenty of animals over the years, and we had plenty of leashes and collars and things like that. And so she would, it was really a big deal to her. So I was thinking the other day, this is a few weeks ago, that one of the biggest needs that we talked about and we passed an ordinance for was the emergency ordinance that in bad weather that we would be able to have the mayor have an emergency declared, and we could bring in the buses and the stuff like that to take care of the homeless animals when the weather was too hot or too cold, and have that availability. Well, the long-term plan of the shelter was to always have a pet shelter. So I got with the mayor, the Melissa Cook, and Public Works. Haley helped out and said, I want to honor my wife and her compassion by spearheading and putting together the Donna Aliff Pet Relief Shelter. And if you can put it out, you've got it up already. So what our goal is to have a drive and collect $250,000 to build before the end of the year this relief shelter that will be located right next to the homeless shelter that we have now. It's a shelter that has a dog area where they can walk. It's got a 10-by-8 or 14-by-8 lobby. It could literally hold 20 to 30 animals without any problem, along with 4 or 5 dog runs that are part of the building. I know that our community will step up and be a part of this. I know that this is something that is needed. Let me explain, and I know that I've said this before, that when you work in the homeless community, you always try and overcome barriers. There's always barriers for people going into transitional housing, to the transitional shelter, whatever that may be, to get services. And one of the major barriers is that we don't have a facility to handle pets. And I can tell you, and I know all of you that have pets understand how important they are in our lives. And how they become a part of the family. Imagine if you were homeless and it was just you and your dog. The last thing you're ever going to do is to leave that dog or to leave that cat. So it keeps you from going into the shelter where there's programs available and things like that, because there's nowhere for your animal. So this can take down that barrier that's been up for so many years in Pueblo and do away with it. You know, after my wife passed, and I'd sit at home, and I literally didn't know what I was going to do with myself. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I had my dog. And my dog got me through so much and still gets me through that today. And as crazy as that sounds, it's just reality. And that's why it hit me so hard that if you're homeless and alone and you have an animal, how critical it is to have this. And so we're going to step up and we're going to make this happen, and we're going to get this shelter built before the end of the year. So when we go through this rough winter, there's going to be a place for these people to go. And not only are their pets going to be taken care of, but their owners are going to be able to go into the shelter, receive learn about the programs, learn about ways to get back into the community. And hopefully we can create an environment that is just a little bit better. And if we can get one person back into the community because of this, it's a success. But we can get way more than that because it drops that barrier. So let me tell the community a little bit what they can do. You can go to, I believe it's the SafeSideFoundation.org. Everything is going through the SafeSide Foundation. Everything you donate to the SafeSide donation, when you click on donate to the Donna Aliff Pet Relief Shelter, goes specifically to that, and they'll give us an accounting of all the money and how it's going through their daily. You can also go, it's the Pueblo Rescue, thepuebloshelter.org also has it on that website. So all you literally have to do is click on it. You can donate. The mayor tells me all the time there's about 3,000 to 5,000 people that watch this every meeting. I was thinking this morning, I said, well, you know, if you had 5,000 people watching and they each gave $50, we'd be done. Right? Cut it in half. If you have 2,500 people watching and you all give us $100, we'll get done with this quick. So anything helps. Anything will make this work. And I just wanted to share this with you guys tonight. I know that you all have circles of influence that are very vast, and you touch a lot of people every single day. And in your social networks and things like that, you have tons of people that you can reach. Please, I'm asking you to get on board and support this Donna Aliff Pet Relief Shelter. Share it on your Facebook, share it on your Instagram, share it on X, whatever you have, and tell your friends about it when you're out drinking a beer or you're having dinner, and let them know that this is going on. I'm having a bunch of flyers made up that I'll give out that you can literally, for everybody that's here tonight, you can just scan that little UPC code there and start donating tonight if you want to. It'll take you right to the donation page. So that's and I know we can't get a picture of that, can we? Okay, we'll get a picture up with the UPC code. And with that, I just wanted to let you know, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
No, I don't have a question. I want to commend him for doing this in honor of his wife. She was quite a lady, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful way to honor her. God bless you.
Thank you,
And-
Counselor.
Thank you. And I will contribute.
Really, thank you.
President Aliff, I think that this is a wonderful, not only is echoing Councilor Latinos and how wonderful this is a tribute to the memory and legacy of your wife, but coming from mental health and working every day with clients in mental health, I could think of 5 off the top of my head of this is the very issue that's keeping them from moving forward and advancing in their treatment and getting back into the community. So understanding that need in the community, I'm happy to hear that you've launched this, and will do what I can to support this and get my mental health folks. I'm sure would be excited to hear about this as well, so that we can provide this it's the piece that you don't know about. That's the thing that needs to happen sometimes. So hopefully this would be something that can help bridge those folks into being engaged in their treatment and then into stronger recovery.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I've known Mark a while now, and this guy's heart, he doesn't come out, doesn't ask for a lot, very quiet if you know him, but he's measured. And I got an opportunity to meet his wife before she had passed. And what struck me about Mark Aliff and his wife's relationship, Mark really got to me when he said, Raj, it wasn't just me invested in this job. My wife was just as invested as I was. So is that the spouses out there that are listening to this, please, everybody write a check, whatever you got to do, try to help. But like I said, he doesn't ask for a lot. His heart is right. And if you notice, every time we close, he always is wishing for prayers for the dogs and the cats. He's done that long before any of the other stuff happened recently. So you can help anyway. I'd like to lead the march if I can. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Just a
That's
quick thank you. We need it.
Thank you. That's it.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, you hold it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving forward with council's agenda this evening, I would like to invite up Sergeant Michael Sincerbox and Mike Venable. And they will be talking to us this evening about the Traffic Safety Initiative. Gentlemen, once your session or your presentation is loaded, we will offer 20-minute presentation and then 10 minutes for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Some familiar faces since last time I was up here and some new faces. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sergeant Michael Sincerbox. I'm the traffic unit supervisor for the Pueblo Police Department. Currently, we are working on trying to calm down the major speeding that's going on within the city and the dangerous situation that's happening. We initiated this traffic safety initiative about 2.5 years ago. We've been working on this for a very, very long time. Why are we here? Since 2020, there's been 39 speed-related fatalities here in the city of Pueblo. Out of all the 107, 39 of them were speed-related. Our vision is echoed through what's happened with initiative with National Highway Safety Administration and CDOT. It's a different way of thinking about how crashes happen and what we can do to prevent them. It's The traditional approach is saying that traffic deaths are inevitable, which they are not. They are preventable, and changes of behavior, design of roadways, and other avenues to curb driver behavior. So automated speed enforcement is one of those methods used. As I said, there's been 107 deaths or fatal crashes here in Pueblo since 2020. About 36% of those are speed related, as you can see. Between 2023 and 2025, those were the two highest years that we've had in the last five. 23 tied the record for the city of Pueblo. Most of you know where the speeding is happening. I know Councilman Gomez and I have spoke a couple of times. Northern Avenue is a huge problem, but it is everywhere. This is just a small taste of what we've done in the last 5 years. We've generated over 5,000 speeding citations in just 4 of these corridors. That's Highway 78, Northern Avenue, Highway 50B, which is Santa Fe Avenue, Santa Fe Drive, Thatcher, Lincoln, 4th Street, Highway 96, and Highway 45, Pueblo Boulevard within the city limits. So over 50% of all citations generated in that area are all speeding related. So why don't you see more officers out there? So we have over 1,000 miles of paved roadway in the city of Pueblo. There's 113 roughly 1,000 people in Pueblo and 5 state highways. And also, that doesn't even include I-25. All Pueblo police officers are trained in traffic detection, traffic enforcement, and things like that. But they are also responsible for answering every call for service, whether it's persons crime, property crime, or any of that such. The Pueblo Police Department currently has 6 officers, including myself, 5 officers that deal with everything traffic related. They are also available for other calls of service if needed, but that involves crashes, hit and runs, and abandoned vehicles. Speed is a main factor. This slide represents what happens in an auto pedestrian crash. A 20-mile-an-hour crash, you have a 90% chance of survival. At 60 miles an hour, you have a 10% chance of survival. Where that mainly is affects school zones, construction zones, residential areas with parks and people crossing the roadway, or any type of high pedestrian that includes areas in Bessemer, the 4th Street corridor, things of that nature. So we have to get speed curbed in those areas because people are out there getting killed because of the speed that people are traveling on those roadways. So what is automated enforcement? They are, to put it in simplest terms, they are a speed measurement device that's connected to a camera. When it detects a violation, it takes a picture and quick turnaround and issues a citation based on that. It is not a revenue source. It doesn't replace traffic officers or police officers. It's a tool used to change driver behavior in those specific corridors that are identified. The penalties on there are civil infractions. There's no points. The state legislature has changed the law every year for the last 3 years. They've updated and improved the law to allow for this type of enforcement. So where can we use them? So there's 5 different areas where we can use them. Residential streets or any roadway under 35 miles an hour. School zones as defined by statute. Construction zones, maintenance construction zones or repair zones. Any roadway adjacent to a municipal park. And the 5th one is a traffic safety corridor. And I'll get into that here in a little bit. The traffic safety corridor is basically any other roadway that doesn't apply within those other 4. Those have to be designated by resolution or by ordinance from the local government. So over the last, like I said, almost 3 years, I've traveled up and down the Front Range. I use Fort Collins. They have a very robust system up there. They had some problems with their chosen vendor. that you can find in the news and things of that nature, but their program is solid. They have they have 14 cameras. On average, each camera generates about 30 citations a day until that roadway or until drivers on that roadway slow down. And you can kind of look at the statistics. So that's with that statistic, it's generating about 12,600 a month for their citations. The main, so you'll hear 4 objectives from constituents. This is a gotcha. This is not a gotcha. These cameras by statute are clearly marked. They have to be notified the driver 300 feet, at least 300 feet from the position of the camera. There's a 30-day warning period before the cameras go live. The cameras go live. And we have to put out the statistics on the PD social media as well as the city social media. So overreach of privacy. Sure that everybody sitting there and has heard the protest on Flock. This is not that. We are currently utilizing this technology at Pueblo Boulevard, or not Pueblo Boulevard, at Thatcher and Northern. This has been in effect for over a decade. Since 2015, we've had the red light camera, which is a similar source of technology. We do not track movement. If you do not violate, there is no generation of video or anything that will track anything. All it does is generate when there's a violation. Same thing with the photo radar. They're only the cameras only generate an image when there is a violation. It's a revenue grab. That's another big one. So the vendor is paid a flat fee. The fees are set and agreed upon by contract, and the money that's generated comes back to the city. It does not go to the vendor. The vendors already know what they're getting paid. So the money generated from the citation comes back to the city to pay for the program, whether it's employee cost or paying for the program, or goes back to the city general fund. Drivers unfairly penalized. We saw it a little bit when CDOT started their camera program on I-25 recently. People were pretty anxious to get through that construction zone, and we were seeing speeds of 30 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. If you go out there right now, it changed behavior. You go out there now, and if you're doing 50 miles an hour, you're catching up to someone quick. It's a change in behavior. That's what we're looking for throughout the city. So how it works. So we went through the RFP process earlier this year. Obvio, which I'll introduce Mike here in a little bit, was a selected vendor. We had, I think, 5 or 7 vendors that put in. We went through the whole RFP process, and Obvio was the selected vendor. The citations are generated the same. The violations are detected. We started 11 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. The evidence is captured. So you measure the speed of the vehicle, get the vehicle identified, and then that is sent to the police department. Once it goes to the police department, it's verified again to make sure that the vehicle, the plate, and other information matches, make sure that the camera was working at the time, and then a citation is mailed by Obvio. So there are safeguards that are built in. So there are no points on an individual's driver's license. The fines are set by legislature, which is currently $40 unless it's a construction zone, and then it can be doubled. There are some other things with it that Harley would definitely be able to explain a little better, because they recently changed that and it went into effect about 5 days ago. So, and that has to do with the cost to the public, but they're still $40 tickets. Just if you get over 25 over, then it does increase that. So, these are based on what research I've done between Aurora, Boulder, Fort Collins. These are the dollar amounts. So I'm looking at putting in 15 or 12 fixed camera locations and 3 cameras that we can move around. The ones that, reason why I'm looking at 3 that I can move around, because of we have 33 school zones within the city of Pueblo. And trying to put 33 of these out in all the school zones. So what we'll do is we'll be able to move those around. Once behavior changes after a little while, we can get the 3 moved around between all the school zones. Total monthly cost to the city is $75,127. That does include 1 full-time employee that the mayor's been gracious enough to allow us to put out. That will be coming through ordinance if we decide to go that route. That is not what the individuals are going to get paid, that $7,927. That's total cost with benefits. The way that the citations, we go off of a pay rate. So what I did on here is if we generate 30 citations a day per camera, we just use round numbers, it's 13,500 citations. At a 60% pay rate, it's $324,000 a month. So the program will pay for itself. And that's the first year. The second year, because generally people start to learn, so your citations will go down. That's why you can't count this as a revenue source. This is actually whatever comes back to the city is good. If we can get this down to 0 where it just pays for itself and the city doesn't make any money, then we've won. We've actually changed the behavior in these corridors. So as far as implementation goes, the legislation sets kind of how we implement these programs. So we have to sit there, and there's basically 2 Senate bills. One's been updated twice. That established in 2024, the automated vehicle identification corridors. They just recently, like I said, Senate Bill 26-152 has just went into effect on the 12th. So we have to establish an ordinance adopting the program. That's first and foremost. And then we have to adopt an ordinance that we designate the traffic safety corridors. Now, like I said before, the traffic safety corridors are where we are able to use these programs that don't meet the or whether they're not in a residential area, they're not on at a school zone adjacent to a park or anything. So we have several roadways in this city, including Pueblo Boulevard, and I'll just say all 5 state highways basically, that would need to be established as traffic safety corridors in order to use this technology in those areas. And that's one of the ordinances that have been prepared to adopt those. In order to do that, to adopt them as a traffic safety corridor, we have to use 5 years of data. So I've been working with the law department. I've collected all the data to establish all the corridors that I'm looking to adopt, and we meet the criteria for all those. Permanent signs need to be put out with 300 feet before the camera. There has to be a 30-day warning period, and we have to do an annual report of all the citations issued, and it has to be publicly disclosed by corridor. These are the corridors. So these are kind of the 11 priority segments. So if you look, there is not any area within the city of Pueblo that's not covered. There are actually 5 more after this. These are the main priorities: Dillon Drive, West 29th, Pueblo Boulevard, Thatcher, Northern, Prairie, 4th Street, Santa Fe, Joplin, Troy, and Cesar Chavez Parkway, Highway 47. All of these have major speeding problems. I cannot, and the police department cannot be out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just for instance, we're getting speeds last week, 94 miles an hour on Thatcher by the golf course. And luckily I had an officer out there that actually captured that. So that's a 40-mile-an-hour zone. So the other areas that I'm looking at, Abriendo, East and West, Main Street, Union Avenue, and Lake Avenue. All of those are secondary, but they still hold the same problems. Lake Avenue still holds the same problems as Abriendo or anything. There's still major speeding going on there. It's just not as bad as Pueblo Boulevard or Northern or 4th Street. So that's why it's kind of secondary, but there's no less importance. There's just a little bit less traffic in those areas. So For state highways, we have to get permitting. We have to be permitted by CDOT. We've already been in contact with the traffic engineers. They're ready to go as soon as the corridors are designated. We have to gather the information. We have to apply, submit, and it's reviewed by CDOT and State Patrol to make sure that everything is good. They permit the signs, and then once that permit's issued, then we can go into the implementation on that area in a 30-day warning period. So it's already been to the city attorney for review. We were asked to come and do a work session before going to first reading, and then it would just have to go through the normal process of contract and go into the period signage and things of that. So I'm just gonna pause right now for questions. I'd like to introduce Mike Venable. He is the sales director for Avio. That is the selected vendor that we selected, the police department. So I'll let him introduce himself and go into his presentation.
Thank you.
Yes. Burns my.
There we go. Members of the council, Ms. Mayor, want to thank you for the opportunity to be here and present to you. We are very excited about the opportunity to work with Pueblo to help improve traffic safety. Avio is a company that has been around since 2022, but we've been working on traffic safety solutions for much longer than that. Our two company founders used to work at a company called Motive, where they helped create a dash cam solution for the large trucking industry. That dash cam was put into several 100,000 large vehicles and looked at things like whether or not the driver was following the rules of the road, whether they were using their phone when they weren't supposed to be or following too close, different things like that. That technology led to a 25% reduction in crashes in those large trucks and a great outcome for the company. And at that time, they started looking at ways that they could use this technology more broadly for the purposes of public safety more generally. And that is where the idea for Avio was born. So our company is made up of a great engineering team from some people who have worked on some of the most successful consumer devices that people use every day, like the iPhone and Meta glasses and things like that. And we are working on revolutionizing the way that traffic safety is done in 2026. We have partnered with various groups across the country to help institute legislation. We were able to get a law passed in Maryland that implemented stop sign technology. We saw about a 65-70% reduction in violations from that technology going out there, and have partnered with a variety of other different states to enact legislation and begin doing automated enforcement in a variety of different ways. While we were anchored in stop sign technology, we've since moved on to having our technology do all different types of violations. And we've really done the work in Colorado. One of the first things we did when we started breaking into the Colorado market was partnered with Bicycle Colorado to run the largest driver behavior study of its kind in the history of the state. We gathered data from nearly 200 locations in 25 cities and counties all around the state and observed nearly 8,000 traffic violations in the 49,000 vehicles that we saw. That was kind of the big first thing that we did, going in and just gathering a bunch of data to show overall big picture trends. And we've since started partnering with other municipalities and counties to do more in-depth traffic studies and uncover more needs. Traditional approaches are certainly important. Things like infrastructure, traditional policing, and all this, we believe are a very vital part of this as well. You know, we don't believe that automated enforcement is the only solution to this problem. But engineering changes are very expensive. They take many years to deliver. And as the sergeant mentioned, you know, police cannot be everywhere at one time and are very much in need of a force multiplier to be able to make a dent in the traffic problems out there. We have seen huge results in the reduction of traffic violations with our technology. 70% reduction in violations within 4 months of the programs going live is a very common outcome. And usually after that first 4 to 6 weeks, most of the people that you see violating don't live in the area, are not familiar with the cameras are not paying attention when they're coming through and breaking the law. So our program, Let's Drive Safer, is meant to really revolutionize the way that traffic safety is thought of. We have devices that are very cutting edge and can do a variety of different types of automated enforcement. We're talking about speed specifically here today, but if there's a need in the future for stop sign, pedestrian yield, red lights, all those things are able to be done by the technology as well. It is a community-focused program. That means that we put privacy first and work to build buy-in and trust with the constituents. What that looks like is the partnership that we have with Bicycle Colorado and other advocacy groups in the state. It also means having a very strong stance on privacy, which I'll explain a little bit more. And then this is a technology that's very easy to deploy pretty much anywhere. They're solar powered and LTE enabled devices. And so pretty much as long as we've got a clear path to the sun and the ability to get a permit, then we should be able to put a device in. This is what the devices look like. They are, pretty simple on a pole with a solar panel and a camera and a compute box. We let you decorate them up however you want to try and beautify them on the sides of your roads. And the proprietary approach that we've taken to them puts privacy first, uses our computer vision to do intelligent detection of the violations. They are solar powered and compact devices that come with advanced reporting and really prioritizing reliability. The biggest criticisms that we've heard of some of the other companies out there are that these devices go down and nobody knows anything about it. So we've prioritized having a very reliable device that is very privacy centric. What that looks like on the device is you have got an image such as this, where we are really looking at everything in the roadway, from the vehicles and how fast they're going, to the pedestrians, the signs on the road, all the crosswalks. And the computer vision is able to determine whether or not a violation has taken place. That computer vision is actually one of the things that is protecting of privacy. So computer vision does the first pass on the imagery on the device and identifies any violations and sends them to a human annotation team in our offices that spot checks the AI. And from there, it then goes to police department for final review. If you are a citizen who's out driving and passes one of these cameras and you're not breaking the law, then those images are deleted within 12 to 24 hours and no human ever sees them. There's no there's no database being built of movements or anything like that. And basically, the evidence that we collect is meant to answer the question of, did this vehicle speed in this place at this time? Very simply. And there is not an answer to where was this car last Tuesday. There's no database of movements around being built. So if you do speed, your data is retained for probably about 180 days, long enough for the court adjudication process to play out, and never enters into any sort of a movement database that's searchable by anyone. And if you do not speed, then your data is not retained at all. It's kept on the device and is deleted within a day without anyone ever seeing it. As far as the reporting is concerned, our reporting is really focused around uptime and being able to understand how strong the signal and the battery is for these devices. It was very clear to us when talking with different cities that understanding a clear picture of the operability of the device was very important. And we give you the ability to pull that at your fingertips. And then also receive real-time notifications if any of those things go offline or are looking like they may go offline, so we can make sure that we get out and keep your devices working within a 72-hour SLA. There's also some reporting about financial metrics and the approval of the violations. But that's about all that is in the reporting. One of our approaches to the way that we work with cities is to be as involved in the community as we can be. Part of that is kind of shown in the relationships that we have with various advocacy groups around the state. We also like to try to be present at any events in the city, pull our tent up, have our collateral and swag and things for people, and try to really connect with the community and make sure they understand what this is and what it isn't, why it is necessary, what kind of problems they're dealing with, and the effectiveness of the program. We also create a transparency portal that is available to be published online that shows each location, the violation rate, and some videos of the violations that are taking place that are all fully scrubbed for privacy. Any pedestrians that are in the view or license plates are blurred out for those. And that's something that the city can choose to participate in or not. So what we are trying to deliver is a very versatile device that can do a lot of different things, that can scale easily around the city because of the way that it is set up to be able to be deployed. And that is driving traffic safety in a way that is compliant with all state laws and with the privacy concerns that we know that citizens have. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for me. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll begin giving council opportunity to field questions. I will begin with Councilor Gomez, please.
You know, I don't understand the complete turnaround you've done, Sergeant Sitzenbacher. You were here over a year ago on behalf of the mayor, and I brought a program called the Vehicle Noise Activated Camera System. It sounds exactly like this program. And the fact that I brought it up, it was somehow erased or deleted by the mayor's office. But I'm going to support this because I wanted all those lives that were lost. Because the political games that were played, how many of those lives were lost? This is the kind of nonsense that I constantly see. It's not just me, it's whoever she has a gripe with. I'm just telling you, this program, and I'll bring it back up, and I'll show you exactly what they've done. You killed it with a staff report, you and the chief. Okay, and I had to sit here and listen to this, and I know you're going to want to cut me off, but I'm going to tell you something. That's what happened. You were the guy that came up and you guys elevated numbers for cameras. You completely distorted my program and blew it out because it came from me. So I hope it's on your conscience now. But I'm going to support this because I'm not going to sit here and play politics with people's lives.
Councilor Latino?
Yes. Obviously, I'm in support of this. I mean, I'm assuming these are the same types of cameras that we've had on the east side of the 4th Street Bridge near 7-Eleven. Is that correct?
No, those are actually recording cameras that go to the RTCC. These are actually mounted and they only have one job to do is to catch speeding vehicles.
So there's these are not portable, what we have on the east
There
side.
is a portable option that will be deployed mainly in school areas, school zones and construction zones. These are solid mount cameras that have signage prior to you getting into that corridor.
What about I'll send to the Quinta Sol as an example, which is highly trafficked area with young people. And we have homelessness there and problems there as it relates to 8th Street, 4th Street speeding. Plaza Verde Park, the same thing, Bradford Park. These are all areas, and we're talking about speeding here, but I'm assuming that these cameras also take care of other things.
No, sir.
No, that's it, just speeding.
This is what they are for.
Mhm.
They are only there for speeding. They collect the violation and will issue citations for that speeding violation.
Okay, thank you.
President Neela.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I could never support this because the road that I drive on is one of the lists and I drive 70 miles an hour to work every day. So it would be yeah, I'm joking. I think the concern with me is it's a $900,000 a year ask. I get the money you get, you make. It's interesting that it's not a revenue generator, but it makes $300,000 a month. That's a revenue generator. I don't care how you look at it, unless I read the presentation wrong. Huh? I'm right. So you make revenue. It's almost insulting to say that it's not a revenue generator. That's a tough one. But what I'm wrestling with is the $900,000. I mean, there's no alternative to manpower to patrol our streets and to make this happen rather than putting up cameras. And I mean, this is really getting to be crazy. So, I'm really on the fence on it. I'm going to have to study it more and understand, exactly what the ramifications are. I think now, there was people holding signs. I think some of them here are here now over the other type of cameras. Anything with a camera now is taboo. And, yeah, Terminator stuff. But that's a real concern. A real concern with everybody has to be our privacy. I mean, that's a God-given right that we have. And I know the chief says we don't have that right when we're out on the streets. The courts have said we don't have that right out on the streets. But I disagree with that. I think when I'm on the streets and when I'm driving and doing whatever, as long as I'm not hurting anybody, none of my information should be recorded. None of it. It's just, I think there's a fine line. So I'm going to study it and see. I understand first reading is coming up. This is going to come on as a first reading.
We're getting feedback tonight
Okay.
from council, so this was a request to have it come before we even put it to the agenda.
Got it. Okay. I'm on the fence.
I believe we have Counselor Dante over Zoom. Counselor Dante, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Ready for you. Go ahead.
So, I believe it was last week, there were questions for the chief about this, and he said that the data belonged to the city, but yet we're allowing the vendor to mail out the citations and letting them have access without any authorization. This doesn't sound right to me. Also, there's a battle grant, which also has the ALPR. And is that the same thing as what we're talking about here?
I can answer that, Counselor Ruiz Gomez.
Yeah.
I just don't
Okay.
think you can see my light on over here. But
Yes, go ahead.
Councilwoman Dante, two different types of cameras. So these are not ALPRs, these are speed cameras. The cameras that the chief was referencing last week were ALPRs, and the data that comes from the ALPRs that we own.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Counselor Hernandez?
Thank you, madam. I have just a couple of questions. Data storage, you said 12 to 24 hours for somebody who didn't do anything wrong. Who has access to that data in that 12 to 24 hours?
That data never leaves the device in that time. The amount of storage that is on the device is very small. It's meant to be for about a day. And so the computer vision identifies the violations, sends that over to our annotation team. The rest of them are left untouched on the device and they fall off automatically within about a day.
For someone who receives a ticket, I confess.
I write your ticket.
How is the data for someone, for myself, who's received this, it's actually a stop sign ticket or a red light ticket, not a speed ticket. How is that data used for someone who has received a ticket?
It goes before law enforcement for approval to check that the data that we got from the DMV was correct and matches the license plate. And then the footage is used to confirm that, yes, a violation actually took place.
Does anybody else have access to that data?
No.
So nobody outside of Obvio will ever be able to see the data for somebody who received a speed camera,
Correct.
speed ticket camera.
That's right.
Just a point of interest, I noticed that some of the people who are here who were protesting, somebody took a picture of us while we were sitting here. So I don't necessarily disagree with President Aliff with regards to whether my privacy should be guarded when I'm in the community. But everywhere you go, someone's got one of these with a camera, the microphone. And I'm also on the fence with it, but I'll tell you this much for sure. Anybody's driven down Northern Avenue, it's not just people driving fast. It's people driving dangerously fast, weaving in and out of traffic. Same thing with Pueblo Boulevard. I mean, I have been driving down the road and had a motorcycle drive between me and another car. So there's lots of need for something like this. I think what we're all trying to balance is the need versus the risk. I guess the risk of abuse is what we're trying to measure. I've spoken with Chief Knoller about the other issue with regards to what people are worried about, and I think that it's just something that we really have to figure out where the balance is and how to build in safeguards to make sure that the abuse of the system doesn't take place. So I thank you very much for the presentation. And please understand that, again, as somebody who's driven down Northern daily, on the way here, there's a car weaving in and out of traffic going 60 miles an hour at least. And so the need is there. I get it for public safety. So thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming and talking to to us about this today. And I will take some ownership. And I didn't realize that these types of speed cameras were different than the flock cameras that were identified in the ordinances that were presented from in last session that do track the ALPR. So I think, council, I think for now, the community's heard the difference. So for just one more time for the community, how are these speed cameras different than something like a flock camera that would use ALPR?
So a speed camera is strictly used for one purpose, and that is to detect violations of the speeding law. If you are not speeding, the data is not collected. A ALPR or flock, which is just a manufacturer, but those type of devices collect data as all vehicles pass, and that data is collected and utilized that way. The only thing, and it's the exact same technology that we currently have, and we've had for over 10 years, is they detect violations with a camera at Prairie and Northern. We've been utilizing the exact same thing. If there's no violation, then all it does is it goes away. So these do not collect everybody's. It only collects the violation and the vehicle that is violating that law or the speeding law, and everybody else just goes about their merry way.
Okay, thank
Point of
you.
order, Madam Chair, please. I'm concerned now because when we're talking about two different things here, it seems like we're talking, if we're gonna make a vote, you got speed cameras, you got the ALPRs here. Two different operations, if you're asking me, two different types of, whether it's noise, whether it's speed. I think we should divide this. I don't think we should be voting on one big,
Not voting.
it's not, I'm not saying tonight, when we eventually get to it.
So,
So if we don't clarify that now,
Mhm.
it's one thing to be sitting in a great neighborhood and you're not putting up the growling engines that we put up through daily, all hours of the day in Bessemer and in the east side. It's ridiculous. It's like the Bessemer east side race pit. It's ridiculous. Now, if you get the chance to go home and go to an ice area, great for you. I'm proud of it. But now we're being asked, we're putting this all into one big package. I don't know how much ordinance violations or how many noise violations have been written from the last time you were here. I think you said they were 0. They were written in 10 years, if I remember correctly. So I'm concerned about this all being wrapped up in, and they're actually two different issues and they should be separated.
So Councilor Gomez, I think, and Mayor Graham, you can confirm, but these are two different things. The ordinance that was presented last week was for the battle grant, which was a grant that was presented to council for approval that would support the police department with overtime pay to track, to look for stolen vehicles. And in the attachments of the ordinances, there was reference to the use of ALPR. So that's different than the so that's that we would actually be looking at two different things. So it is going to be two different things that we are being asked to consider on these issues. This in particular is the implementation of a safety program using the speed cameras, which they are trying to distinguish or have a different purpose and have a different role in how they are going to be utilized for public safety. So that's my understanding, and Mayor Graham, if you, yeah,
It's too.
I agree. Mayor Graham, do you have any input on that as well?
I'll just add that the city's been working on bringing this type of project forward for several years, at least since I was on city council. We had talked about having speed cameras, the House bill, the zones that we had to be approved by city council 3 years ago. So this has been a very long process. We put the RFP out. We now have somebody to answer. But with all of the conversation about cameras in general, we thought it was a good idea to bring this forward tonight for you to have discussion and give direction if you want to put this forward to have a first and second reading specifically for the use of speed cameras only.
Councilor Gomez, did you have anything else?
I just
Okay.
hope we get an opportunity to resurrect my vehicle noise activated camera system ordinance that was deleted. And you'll see the similarities are incredible. And why we're going through this now, I understand the play. I authored it, I got it, and we're playing politics in the beginning of the year. But when I see something like this and you're asking me to support it, I'm not going to go against my constituency of the safetiest community because they did something that I believe was wrong. So politically, we got to stop all this. Let's do what's right for the constituency. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and get in the way of some good projects, especially because it had my name on it. But I am telling you, I know what you did. You've been caught, and I want to know, where is my vehicle noise activated camera system that I sent and was deleted by your command?
Sergeant Cinterbrox, can you just ask, I just have a question. You mentioned something earlier in your presentation that we are moving in a direction with other communities in Colorado, that are outside of Pueblo. Is this, why now with this in particular? And then the other question I have is as a follow-up, are we working on this now in response to some of the state legislation that's been passed in this last session?
So the program actually started was authorized by the state legislature in 2023.
Okay.
That's when I began looking at this program. They made changes in 2024 because in 2023, they were vehicle mounted. They allowed for vehicle mounted, and each one had to be manned. Each camera had to be manned. So it saved no manpower. It didn't do anything for manpower wise for the police department. Once they made the change that it could be automated, it just had to be verified by a member of the police department who's authorized and trained. Then that's when the wheels really started getting moving in 2024. A lot of things happened between 2024 and today. This is the second time I presented to council. I think the last time was June or July of last year. I gave the same presentation at a previous work session. We were asked at that point to go out for RFP. because there was a change in council members and everything, the mayor decided, and rightfully so, to bring it to the new council. At work session, that's why we're here tonight. As far as any individual reason for this has been being worked on for 3 years by me. So there's no real individual reason other than we keep on losing officers and I don't have the people to sit there and be on every roadway. We see these problems too. I'm driving in my pickup truck in Pueblo, just driving through. I see these problems too, and I can't act because I'm off duty. So we're with you. We're with all of you. We see, we hear, we see all the problems. This is a solution, hopefully, that can actually make a difference in the driving behavior of citizens of Pueblo and make other people safer.
Thank you. One more question for Mr. Venable. You'd mentioned that there was a dashboard and you talked a lot about transparency. And so I'm wondering, one, does Avio have like a policy that's written that says this is the only use of our information, that says we do not do XYZ, we do not share with other entities, this is how long we keep the information and solely used for partnerships and contracts with law enforcement, local law enforcement? Is there something that's on your, when you subscribe to this, if we should move through, that says to the public anyway, who have this, who are concerned about this, that says, this is as far as we share your information, something written and on that the public can say, that's a transparent, on our word, that that's as far as the information is used?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do. The city owns the data
Mhm.
and we, do not distribute the data to anyone for any reason without any approval from the city. There is no database that's being built that anyone can access. The only thing that is in the portal is a spot for law enforcement to go in, view the violation and either approve or deny. There is no other database.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Oh, Councilor Buxton, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's there's this blue BMW always on the south side going real fast through traffic, so keep an eye out for that one. But I have a couple of questions. So Mr. Gifford, correct me if I'm wrong, does that new House bill change that 11-mile-an-hour threshold?
Yep,
To lower
it's Senate Bill 26-152. It changed the violation speed from the 11 miles an hour to between 6 and 10. Your first violation, you get a warning. After that, it's a $40 penalty. Anything over 10 miles an hour, so 11 plus to 25, is also a $40 violation penalty. I believe during the first 30 days that this is rolled out, everything will be warning, much like we had on I-25. In fact, this is very similar to what is on I-25. That's what we're talking about when we talk about this type of program. School zones, work zones will be eligible to have the fine amount doubled if it occurs during one of those areas. And then also for anything 25 miles an hour over, there's also an elevated penalty as well.
And a mandatory court appearance?
Yes.
So if somebody gets a violation for 6, 10, 15 miles an hour, or is it an automatic ticket? Is it disputable?
Yes, it is.
So somebody has an opportunity to dispute it if they don't agree with the technology that captured it.
Yes, by affidavit.
Okay. Also, when it comes to some of these speed violations, for instance, the person going 90 plus on Thatcher, how much safer would it be to have this camera than to have you do a pursuit on that individual?
That's immeasurable how much safer it is than going out and pursuing a vehicle.
So it mitigates a lot more risk.
Yes.
Because I understand, I think everybody wants to make the community safer. Don't get me wrong, I know that this is something that would be beneficial, especially when, we have people traveling more than double over the speed limit regularly in a lot of areas. But again, like some of my colleagues, I'm slightly on the fence as well. I know I've had tons of people already once I think you did this last July
Yes.
when I wasn't here. Give this presentation and I've had a lot of people since then tell me that they want nothing to do with it. So it is something that we're gonna have to do further research on before we are able to, I think, make a firm decision. I had other questions, but some of them, I lost my train of thought waiting too long, so thank you for answering this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Counselor Latino, do you have it?
I just, yeah, please, just a minute. I-
1 minute, 1 minute, go ahead.
1 minute, that's fine, 1 minute. My concern is my community, okay? As Councilman Gomez alluded to, we have problems on the east side. And I'm there at night. And I see them, and during the day, 50, 60 miles an hour down 4th Street. Okay? So that is a concern of mine. And I also have concern for young people, obviously, you know, and my parks. So again, we don't have enough police officers on the street. We're short. I don't know that I can support this because basically I have people saying to me, this becomes what we become is we become a city with not a lot of people on the street. Like when I used to walk down the street after football, basketball, or baseball practice when I went to high school at 6 o'clock at night. My parents never worried when we had police officers standing on the street. Mr. Busha and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can even go back and can walk across Santa Fe where the railroad is into Smelter Hill or Goat Hill or wherever, and our parents never worried. That's my main concern, and it's my concern now because I am on the street at night and I see things that are going on. And the mayor's been very supportive in trying to help us with this homeless nonsense, because we got people standing out in front of the hotels here and people coming from all over the country, and they're saying, what the hell's going on in Pueblo, Colorado? You know? And so again, speed is an issue, but security and safety is my primary concern. So I guess, you know, I have to think a little bit more about this. Again, speed is an issue, but safety and security is my primary concern in my community and in this city, having been raised here and came back. And I think the people that are sitting here today feel the same way. And I know a few of them very well. And they've worked in this community their whole lives, and they've done a lot of great things. And their concern is, what are we going to become? Is it going to be cameras everywhere so that we can't do this or we can't do that, or we have to be afraid to do this or that? You know, like example on Goat Hill.
Counselor Latino,
That's fine. I'm done.
we
Okay,
need
I'm
to move
done.
forward.
I'm
Thank you.
done. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. Appreciate your presentation. And yes, like we would like, next up on the council's agenda is we will have a budget presentation. I'd like to invite Chief Noller.
Chair, I'd like to kick off the budget presentations with the questions that you had sent, so everybody knows.
Yes, okay.
The questions that the presenters are answering to tonight.
Okay. Once you're ready, this presentation is for 15 minutes, and then we'll have time for questions.
Thank you, Chair. So City Council requested about, I think, 5 departments to come and present to you tonight and through the 31st. These are questions that I took specifically from Chair Ruiz Gomez and what she would like these departments to be able to talk about tonight. So everybody's presentation revolves around these questions. So what are the current expenditures in your budget? Do you have any new asks? What opportunities have been explored to mitigate costs? Has your department transferred monies from other areas of the budget outside of your approved budget? If so, describe. What are the needs and goals of the department and the challenges? what contracts are in place for your department needs, and what projects are pending and coming forward in 2027. So these ones that I bolded, this was direction that went across all departments, so they're not necessarily going to have any type of a different answer for you tonight, as you are well aware if you sat through any of the budget meetings. So the direction was to have no additional ask for personnel, no merit, no wage increases. Departments with larger budgets, we recommended additional cuts outside of the 15% from 2026. We are evaluating part-time employees, asking that line to be reduced, and we are also evaluating the travel and training line to be reduced throughout departments. The second question that I bolded, opportunities to mitigate costs. So this is the largest opportunity that you will see throughout the budget discussions over the next couple weeks. So the reduction in training and travel. And since January of this year, I have frozen 22 positions. Up at the top, you can see the different departments that they're frozen in, and the different position titles. Another question that was asked are what contracts are in place for your department needs? So most departments have a contractual service line. Within their contractual service, this was going to get repetitive to tell city council that each department has its own janitorial contract, copier contract, equipment maintenance, recycling, shredders, trash service, utilities, and software. So I asked each director to put a total cost item for how much contract services is, and if you have specific questions about their contract services outside of these services that are required by each department. And so I'll let Chief Noller kick it off with the first discussion.
Thank you. Welcome, Chief Noller. As soon as
Thank-
you're up and loaded, we can begin.
Thank you, members of council, Madam Mayor. This is our presentation regarding those questions that you had asked for our budget for 2027. On this first slide, I thought it would be helpful to give some perspective on our historical budget, either whether that's operating budget or whether that is the actual personnel line items. And you can see there going back to 2010, what our operating budget has been, and the years in red where we were under that budget. The other years in black on that fourth or fifth column over where it says difference adopted to actual is the years that we've had to go into personnel in order to fulfill our operating budget. What is interesting is historically about 7% of our budget is operating expenses. For some perspective, these are other departments that we are similar in size to and similar in call load to, and what their operating budgets are, what their general fund personnel budget is, what their total population is, authorized, sworn, and actual, that's sworn officers that they're authorized and sworn officers that are fulfilled positions, and what their calls for service are each year. Just for some perspective, well, we are the third largest agency by authorized strength on that chart. And we are the third busiest agency on that chart as well. In our operating budget, the closest one is Thornton's, which is double what ours is normally. So current expenditures, the 2027 budget currently, as I last knew it, is at about $43,655,000 is what is being contemplated to be funded. 40.6 million or 40.7 million is going to be personnel costs, which will be salaries and benefits. And about 3 million or 6.86% is our operating budget. The operating budget pays for a variety of wide-ranging of equipment, software, services such as fleet, repair, fuel, and vehicle supplies, ammunition, ballistic vests, quartermaster and business cards, training and travel, computers and software licensing, cell phones and air cards, hiring costs to include our background checks, psychological evaluations, and polygraphs, recruitment costs, professional and contract services, which include things like mental wellness, sexual assault examinations, DUI blood draws, fingerprinting, shredding, transcription, inmate housing, sign language interpreters or foreign language interpreters, copier lease, barricade rentals for a variety of things, janitorial uniforms and supplies, the custodial contract and utilities, et cetera. So cost mitigation, what have we done to reduce costs? Obviously, we have frozen positions. There are 5 police officer positions that are frozen, 1 deputy chief, 1 code enforcement officer, 1 community engagement manager, and 2 office assistants. Training, we have updated our training philosophy so that personnel only attend training that is appropriate for their current position. And where we can, we try to get that training located as close to where we are as possible. Copiers, we reevaluated the copier expenses as we went through last year and what we needed to try to remove features and copiers in areas where we don't need them or don't use them enough to justify retaining them. We purchased barricades for our camera trailer surveillance systems that Counselor Latino was referring to earlier. Vehicle upfitter, we changed vehicle upfitters in order to save money on the equipment and the cost of upfitting of our patrol vehicles. Needs, goals, and challenges. Like anywhere, needs are plenty. Goals and challenges are also existent. Future needs for our department as we grow, patrol vehicles, brass tracks, which allows us to do NIBIN testing for forensics for weapons and homicides, drive-by shootings, that kind of thing. Expansion to forensic capabilities. Currently, CBI does all of our DNA testing. We cannot submit DNA testing for property crimes because CBI won't process that. And if they do, it's at least a year to a year and a half out before we get that testing back. That is also the length of time that we have with DNA testing as it relates to serious crime is approximately a year. The O2X, I think I've talked about it before council before. That is a need for the retention and well-being of our officers. Software to pull our various data sources together and help with discovery issues. We need more civilian personnel. My records department currently has 12?
Yes.
12 records clerks. Realistically, we need double that number in order to comply with discovery and other unfunded mandates that have been foisted on us by the state. So goals, what are our goals as a department? My number 1 goal is, and until it changes, will be reducing violent crime. Increasing proactive enforcement, getting a MOU with the Pueblo County Sheriff's Office to jail some municipal offenses, which is something I've been working on for 5 years. Address quality of life crimes and leverage grants, the Public Safety Partnership or PSP, as potential game changers for how we conduct our training and our patrol and investigative efforts. Challenges, our operating budget is and always has been a challenge. It's simply not enough money to operate a department of our size. Call load, quantity of discovery. We have had issues that have unfortunately affected some cases because of the discovery not getting to the DA's office when it should be. The number of CORA and CCJRA requests that we get have almost tripled in the last 3 years. And with changes to different laws that took place this last legislative session, that's likely to increase even more. Recruitment intent and retention, obviously. Legislation is a major roadblock to what we try to do. And not just that, but it also has a lot of unfunded mandates that require us to take manpower, if nothing else, to dedicate to other things. Our ability to book offenders into jail is also a challenge that we face. And I think I've said it 3 or 4 times, unfunded mandates from the state. Wrong button. So in 2025, the Pueblo Police Department spent approximately $480,000 from its contract services line item. There's a number of contracts for a variety of things that we do, and I've mentioned some of those. But obviously, some of that is also tied to investigative efforts that we do and things like that. Oops, wrong button. I think that's it. Do you have anything to add? Okay, be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief Noller. Council, any questions for Chief Noller? Counselor Hernandez, please.
Thank you, Madam. Chief Noller, you and I sat in the budget discussions at the city before, so you kind of know the questions that I'm going to ask you already. Just kind of, and this goes to the mayor's offices, sorry, the administration as well, but last year, the money that was not spent was about little more than $4 million. How much of that was returned to the general fund?
Every penny.
Penny was?
Yes, sir.
And according to the spending that's happening for this year, it looks like it's going to be closer to 7 million this year. Are you worried at all? 6,709,000 based on 6 months and very projecting
If you're
forward.
projecting, yes, sir.
Yeah. Are you worried about the fact that almost $7 million of your budget is going to be unspent?
Yeah, I am. The reason why it's unspent is because it's personnel.
Right.
And we are doing everything that we can to hire people and retain them.
Sure.
Ideally, I would give you back nothing. Honestly, I mean, from my
Right.
perspective, that may not be yours, but I would spend it all on personnel. And we would have 231 officers on our streets.
Right.
We're moving in the right direction in that regard. We have 13 in one academy, 11 in one academy, 13 in one that just started. And we have 6 officers. I just found out today, one of them is going to resign. We had 7. We have 6 officers in the PTO program. This job is not for everybody.
Sure.
And sometimes it takes people a little bit of time to figure that out.
Believe me, I want you to spend all of your budget as well. I certainly don't want to take off.
But yes, it does concern me. It concerns me for a variety of reasons. Number one, I'm not able to be as responsive as an agency as we would like to be.
Right.
We can't be as proactive as I want to be. And I'm working my officers to the bone. I mean, the amount of overtime that we have started doing to try to address some of these quality of life issues, I've done so much of it now that it's hard to get people to sign up for it. They're
Right.
just burned out. They're tired. And we need more people to help us do better.
And this is a question that I asked you before, and I already know your answer, but I think the people need to hear your answer as well. One of the suggestions that I had was that we move some of the money out of personnel into your operating budget because your operating budget is so low. And your response to me is that you don't want to reduce the force. And I understand that and I agree with that. My only concern is that we haven't had a full force for quite some time. And I worried that we're missing some of the other areas that are equally as important because 2 things, we don't have enough officers. And number 1, our operating budget probably isn't what it should be. So just your response to that, please.
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying about we're not hiring officers anyway, so why not move some of that money into the operating year in 2026. Let's say we moved that $6 million into our operating budget. It gave me a $9 million operating budget, which we could do a lot of stuff with. We could replace cars. We could upgrade some of our internal systems. We could buy some of this software that I want to buy in order to help us better use the information that we're gathering through our CAD RMS system and other systems that we have access to and use. The problem is now all of a sudden I can hire 20 more cops. And now I don't have the money to do that.
Right.
And I also think that, and I don't know how my officers feel about this idea, to be honest with you, because I've not asked them. But I think I would have to think for myself back when I was in patrol, if I was working the hours that they're working and carrying the caseload and the call load that they were carrying, having the violent crime. I mean, in my tenure, I've only been chief 5 years and we've had 5 officers shot in my time as chief. And facing all those things, knowing that, man, if somebody does wake up and start applying for this job, that we can bring those people on board. I think that possibility helps me come back in the next day and continue to do what I'm doing. Now I could be all wet and not know what I'm talking about, but I think that's how I would feel as a patrolman. Now, certainly also as a patrolman, I'd want a nice car. I want a car where the equipment all worked. I wanted like a car that, was mine and I could take care of it and know that nobody else is going to mess it up. I would like to have, the equipment that I needed replaced sooner than it probably is going to be under our current operating budget. I think that's true as well. But as an administrator, what I want to be able to do is stack as many cops on the street as I can. That is my goal. It has been my goal since 2021 when I became chief. And it continues to be my goal today. And frankly, it's one of the reasons why I haven't left. Because I don't feel like I have accomplished my goals as it relates to this department and getting our manpower back where it needs to be.
Thank you, Chief.
Can I make a comment, Chief? I'd just like to add that I work on our budget at the police department, and I get brought requisitions for equipment on a daily basis where I have to make a decision because the officers really need it. And if you look at what they're bringing to me, everything on first glance looks like, yes, they need this equipment. Unfortunately, because of our shortfall with our operating budget, I have to make a decision on every single piece of equipment that gets brought to me saying, can we swing this? Can we not? And if we can, then where am I going to get the money to pay for this? So it's a tough decision every day, every single day. Like I said, I'm getting brought stuff that I have to make a decision on, or and if I feel like it's worthy of going up and purchasing it, then we have to figure out a way of doing it and talking to the chief or whatever it is.
You know,
Thank
and if I could
Sure.
add on to that, I think one of the things, if you go back to the slide, and if you don't mind, I'm going to go back to the slide where I showed our historical operating budget. I think it's fair to say that the price of a patrol vehicle in 2010 was substantially different than it is today in 2026.
Yes, sir.
The price of a radio is significantly different. The price of a computer is significantly different. And if you look in 2010, our operating budget was $1.8 million. And in 2026, it's 3.0 if you round up. So in the course of 16 years, our budget has gone up basically, what, $800,000?
Right.
You know, what I take away from that is at the Pueblo Police Department, we're real police. We can do a lot with less. But we need to be able to do the job with the way it ought to be done. And you need money to do that. It's just the reality. Now I get it. I'm not here to complain. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. Because I understand the crisis that we're in. I do. And we as a department are ready to step up and do our part with what we get. That I can assure you. But I just am trying to be real with the numbers.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Counselor Boston?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, this just made me think of it. That approximate $900,000 a year, is that something that we would have to budget if that was approved for this upcoming budget? Or is that something that is budgeted based on collected fines?
What $900 are you talking about?
900,000 for the cameras that were in the last presentation.
Well, finance could answer that probably better. I do believe we would have to budget for the position. And we would probably have to put in the budget, the cost of the equipment. But then the fines would be what would pay those things if you did it in a project, so to speak. Now that may be a better question for Mr. Nunn.
Thank you.
President Aliff, and then I'll come over to Counselor Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that presentation. I'm a little confused. We need more officers, but one of your slides said we have 5 frozen patrol. That doesn't make sense.
That was something, if you'll remember, and it's been a while, and I can't remember if you were on council, sir, or not, but
It's 2 years ago.
we brought forward a proposal to hire, I think it's 10 or 11. We had 3 or 4 CSOs. We wanted to hire more. And so we froze 5 officer positions to hire those extra CSOs. So those are still frozen positions.
I think that was President Aliff's idea a couple years ago, was to bring in more CSOs, and then instead of asking for the additional funds because we knew we weren't going to fill the 5 officers, we froze 5 officers and hired 5 CSOs.
Well, budget time, I always sound like a broken record. And I'm going to tell you something that you've heard numerous times from me. But I literally take it seriously that my responsibility to the community as a city councilor, first and foremost, is the safety of the community. So literally anything else within the budget should not take precedence over public safety. So I've said to you numerous times, I would say, if you need another $3 million in operating expenses, that should be in the budget. I don't understand, and I get it that, you know, times are tough and things are all jacked up. But public safety should never be jacked up. Public safety should always be funded to where it gives the maximum peace of mind and security to the community. And I'm always flabbergasted when we go through this process that if you needed, you know, instead of putting up cameras, use the $900,000 to hire CSOs. If you're going to put manpower on the streets or create opportunities for more officers to be on the street, I just see that as such a positive way to go for your department. You have such a problem hiring officers and keeping them, you know, because of all the things that happen. CSO is the answer. And I believe that I'll be so happy. I hope I'm still a city councilor when I see that budget that shows us when that those things are happening, because every year it doesn't happen. You know, we get 5 or 10, we need 50, we need 30, we need another $3 million for operating expense. And it's really not fair to sit here on a weekly basis and dog the police department and dog you and say, you know, this is going bad, crime is crazy, so on and so forth, but yet we don't fund it to where it can be fully operational and do the things that the police department needs to do. So I'm never going to change my story on that. And I think we should get budgets for a department like police for actually what you need to do your job. And I get it. You're real police and you go out there and you do the things. $3 million gets you by you on the operating budget and so on and so forth. But if another $3 million will take you to another level, then why aren't we talking about that? You know, I hate that the budget is full of these positions that are never going to get filled, but yet they take up our dollar amount and we pass up opportunities to take care of public safety. And we have all these, I've always called them phony numbers in there of 150 jobs that are never going to take place. And we're budgeting for those jobs. It's just, it's craziness. It's craziness. So there's not much I can do about it other than budget time. I guess I could say, I'm going to make a motion to add another $3 million to the police department's operating. I don't know what else to do. If you don't give us the numbers, I don't know how to fix it. You know, I'm just telling you for the 10th time that I support what you do. I support the police department, but more than anything, I take seriously my responsibility to protect the community. And if we have the purse strings, we should be doing something about that. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Mayor Grimm, did you want to respond?
I was just gonna ask if Chief Miller could talk about the hiring of CSOs and what a difficult time we're also having in bringing CSOs. So it's not for the fact that we are not getting creative. And if the council would approve an additional $3 million to the operating budget, that would go into your council contingencies, your reserve, because you're working with 1.2 million, right, left. That I think that the police department would be happy to have that $3 million. But unfortunately, we don't have those funds to be able to give the police department or the fire department when it comes to public safety, those extra dollars. I mean, the reality is we've asked all the police and the firemen to take 0 wage increases for next year because we're in such a poor condition moving forward with this budget. So if we had the money, I'd be the first person to be making sure their operations are fund it at the additional $3 million, but that's just not reality.
Well, maybe, I know we got to get through this budget stuff, but maybe, or these presentations, but maybe that's a conversation that needs to take place. Instead of a 12% reserve, maybe we do a 10% reserve or a 9%
Sure.
reserve. But
Can
we need to
can
be
definitely
specific.
be a discussion. It's not for the lack of the administration not wanting to
No,
fund
I
the
don't-
department.
I never said that.
Or for city council not wanting to fund, right? We're doing what we can to cut so that in 2028, we can still have 231 officers. And the amount of fire and the amount of personnel that we have in the city. So we're playing the long game. This isn't just about this year's budget or last year's budget or the budget before. I mean, we've known this was coming for at least since I've been here. You've known this was coming since you've been here. So I'd be happy to have further conversations about that percentage.
Well, if I could just kind of address the CSO issue and our manpower real quick, if that'd be okay. Right now, I think we have 11 CSOs.
Yes.
Or our positions for 11. I don't think all 11 are full because we are in a hiring process for CSOs. And those individuals do a tremendous amount for us. The reality of it is they can never replace a need for the number of patrolmen that we have. Now, in the interim, could they be helpful? Absolutely. I don't think we have a workload for 50 CSOs because then there's going to be at a point, there is work that they can't do because they're not sworn officers. Is it more than 11? I don't know. We haven't commissioned internally a work study to see how many more CSOs we have because we're still trying to fill the 11 to see where we're at. But that is something that is on my radar to keep track of. Currently, we have 197, about to be 194 officers, sworn, hired individuals. It's important for me to note that is a number that is, like you mentioned earlier, it's kind of a fake number because we have 31 of those individuals are in training, and our training process takes 48 weeks from start to finish if they don't get extended at any point. And then we have 13 officers that are out on some sort of long-term leave. So our working number is 154. So if you look at, there's two ways to look at that. Number one, our working number is too low. It is too low for the call load that we have. And there's not another department on that sheet that is anywhere near the call load we have with 154 officers. But the other number to think about is the 197. If our authorized strength right now with the frozen deputy chief and the 5 frozen officers is what, 225? 225. I'm a cop, not a rocket scientist. We're not theoretically that far away from that 225 number, which is why I'm hesitant to freeze positions and transfer that money into my operating budget. I would love to have a, $8 million operating budget, which is probably 7 to 8 is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of where we ought to be. 6 would be, I don't know what I would do. I'd be like a pig in a pen, and be super happy. But, that's kind of where we're at with the numbers and why I'm hesitant to say, well, let's freeze 10 positions and transfer that money into my operating budget. Because we have been limping by on $3 million or less since I've been a cop here since 1996. And I don't know that we've ever had a budget that's been higher than where we're at now. And we've been able to maintain. It's not great. We could be better. If you're talking about the difference between AAA and the majors, that's probably what you're talking about. But I would rather keep those positions because I am a short-term pessimist, long-term optimist. And I think we can fill those positions in the next year or two. Especially if we can get people to maintain their positions in our department and start seeing this as a career and not a job. And I think that could happen. So that's my spiel.
Counselor Gomez.
Yeah, Chief, there's a big difference between being a police chief in 1990, 2000, 2010, in the decades to where we're at now, it's a completely different ballgame. Well, I don't envy you at all. I'm looking at things like drone supplementation, that kind of stuff. I think as we advance, we have a lot of people upset. We have automation coming in and we have a lot of electronics doing a lot of digital work and all the stuff. But, when you have a drone sitting over your house and they might be giving some information to the PD before the officers can get there, I think that's a good thing. That's just my opinion. And I don't know how far you can go. I don't know if it means you're gonna have to hire drone technicians. I don't know what that picture means, but I think if we're gonna stay contemporary, there's a lot of communities our size that are looking towards this stuff. And it's a new world. It's not when I was in law enforcement, this stuff wasn't there. So I'm just wondering, how does the drone supplementation look for the city? I've heard some comments where people are saying, well, the drones are not gonna be your first responders. That's not true. Drones are a camera, for Christ's sakes. Your first responders are always going to be the guys on the streets, as far as I'm concerned. But you have any feelings about the drones and how that kind of technology can help us or hurt us, or in your opinion?
Yeah, I think, all these things, even the controversial ones that we are looking at them because they help us do our job better. Drones as first responder, we have 3 drones as a first responder right now. That program is going well. It provides us real live intelligence as we are on the way to calls. It does clear some calls. We have found it is somewhat limited in the number of calls that it can just clear without sending an officer. It's about anywhere from, depending on who we talk to, I think our percentage is relatively low right now. It's about, I don't know, four calls every other week or so that we're able to clear with a drone. We were out in LA last week to see how they're doing things with their real-time crime center and CompStat and some other stuff. And what's interesting is we actually have a better and larger real-time crime program than they do currently. They do have drones as a first responder. And they're seeing about 11% of their calls cleared, which is relative. It's not nothing. Especially when you're looking at the number of calls LAPD has, but it's not as high as you would think. The problem with it, like on a burglary call, yeah, we can launch a drone and go over the house and see if somebody's trying to leave. But if they're inside the house, we can't tell. So we still have to send an officer over there to check the house. A lot of times there's other calls that are like that where, yeah, they can go over it and they can maybe tell us if somebody's leaving a fight or whatever, give us direction of traffic or travel and description, but you still have to send an officer over there. Things like that, I think are huge game changers. And one thing that I have heard repeatedly from council and from other people, and it's a fair assessment, is that we need to think outside the box and see how other people are doing things. Well, that's what we've done. And that's why we created the Real-Time Crime Center. That's why we use ALPRs. That's why we have drones as first responders. That's why we are looking at speed cameras. And what I will tell you is you want to not do the speed cameras? Okay. All right. That's fine. I'm not getting extra money because we get speed cameras. I'm not either taking money home with me or getting any more in my budget because we have speed cameras. But what I will tell you is, as a one-time traffic sergeant, traffic fatalities are directly, what's the word I'm looking at? Inverse to enforcement. When enforcement goes up, traffic fatalities and serious accidents go down. It is a direct corollary. And when you have 5 traffic officers, I can do some enforcement, but it's not enough to impact those things. And so one way to do that is to do the speed cameras. And again, if council decides that's not for the city of Pueblo, okay, no sweat off my back. But we will have to continue doing what we're doing. What I will tell you is, I went out of town when the I-25 thing happened and it turned from a warning to a ticket. And I will tell you that I almost rear-ended somebody coming up on that thing because there was not one person other than a person with Texas plates who went skipping through our construction zone going any more than 55 miles an hour. And I will tell you that if we put those cameras in our community in certain places, that is what you're gonna see. But again, if council doesn't want that, I got no hard feelings. I'm not gonna go pout in the corner and take my toys and go home. We'll continue to do what we do and we'll do it to the best of our ability. Same with the ALPRs. What I will tell you is there is ample case law, and I have sent some of it to you, that says that ALPRs are not pervasive surveillance as is implied in Carpenter. And there's another case, and I can't remember that case either. And there's actually two cases out of Virginia with Norfolk where they have 176 cameras. They have 600 center lane miles of road. We have 500. We have 82 current cameras, and we have contracts that would extend that to 92. Courts, two different courts, one state level and one that has gone to a district court, federal district court, which is under appeal, have both said that those systems do not implicate Carpenter, or it's Carpenter, right?
Yes.
They are not pervasive. They take a picture of a vehicle at a certain place and time. After 30 days, we erase all that data. We do not keep it past 30 days. And so we can't put together, even if I wanted to, I could not put together some pervasive surveillance network of what Mr. Hernandez or Mr. Aliff is doing throughout our city. I might be able to identify that you're at Prairie in Northern every morning for 30 days if I really cared to, which you will see my vehicle there every day on the way to work. And there's not a whole lot else we can do with that. You're about to get right now, Ms. Dante, I'm trying to answer all your questions you sent me. It's about a 30-page document of what we have done, how we have done it, and why we are doing it, and the case law that supports what we are doing. I live in this country too. I am a citizen of Pueblo as well. And I drive all over the place when I'm off and when I'm on. And there's no implication. I have no fear that the government, if the dystopian government that is feared that we're going to start looking and tracking everybody, if that ever happened, I promise you, they're not going to use ALPR data to figure out where you are. They're going to use this, because if it's that dystopian government, they're not going to need a search warrant. They're just going to get into your phone and they're going to know everything you ever thought of. They're going to know stuff about you you don't know. And that's the God's honest truth. It's not going to be the ALPR that's going to somehow hem Chris Noller up for being a subversive. It's going to be my phone that does it, or it's going to be my computer. Now, what these things do is they allow us to do more with less. It's kind of like the way I look at it right now with ALPRs, it's like the advent of the fingerprint. We were able to solve crime before fingerprints became a thing. We were. And if you took fingerprints away, could we still solve crime? Absolutely. It's just that much harder though. With ALPR, you take that away, we can still solve crime. But there are some crimes we will not be able to solve because we don't have that tool. It's like telling a carpenter, go build a house, but you can't use any pneumatic tools. You can still build a house. You absolutely can still build a house. But it's going to take you twice as long, and it may not be quite as sturdy as it is with the pneumatic tools or the hurricane hangers. It's just that kind of a thing. And again, if council at some point decides we shouldn't have ALPRs, all right. I mean, it's no skin off my back. I mean, but all I've heard for 5 years is crime is out of control. We have all these problems with drive-by shootings. We have all these issues with theft. We have all these issues, I mean, on and on, traffic problems, blah, blah, blah. And we come up with tools that help us address those problems, and people want to take them away. And that conversation in our country absolutely should happen. It absolutely should happen. But we have to have an honest conversation about it. And in order to have an honest conversation, you can't just decide that everything I say is bull, that I'm just a liar, because I'm not. I highly prize the integrity that I have. And to be accused of lying or doing false things, it really rankles my skin. Because I pride myself in my integrity. And what I will tell you is we utilize these systems well. I've heard as many as 60 officers so far, and I have no doubt there will be more, have, because we're humans, have used ALPR data inappropriately. There are over 770,000 police officers working in the United States. 60 across the country have been caught. That is 67 10,000th of a percent. Think about that. It is not even 0.5%. There is not one other profession on the planet. I would challenge you to find one where your misconduct is less than 67 10,000th of a percent. I did a deep dive on medical malpractice. There's something like 145 to 150,000 surgeons in the United States. There are 40, and this number I won't get exactly right because I'm doing it from memory. There are like 4,200 cases of malpractice a year. Think about the percentage of malpractice cases there are. It's way higher than 67 10,000th of a percent. And what I will tell you is, if our officers misuse this system, there will be a price. There will be a heavy price in our organization if that happens. I will not tolerate it. I do not ever tolerate that kind of stuff, and we will deal with it if it happens. But I would ask you to please have a genuine conversation about what this stuff is and what it actually does. I will answer any question you have. If you have questions, you can email them to me. I am taking time to try to answer Ms. Dante's questions. And I think there's like 60 of them. And get that to her as quickly as I can. And I understand the consternation and the questions that are being asked. I love this country. I love the freedoms that we have. I have served in the military, and I have been a police officer longer than I have not been a police officer in the service of this country, our Constitution, and what it provides for us. And I'm telling you that what we are doing is constitutional. Now the Supreme Court comes back and later says it's not, then we will stop immediately. Absolutely. But the case law right now is not indicating that that's the case for ALPR. Now, the issues that they keep bringing up, almost every single one of them that they bring up that they're trying to implicate ALPR with relates to this thing. And it relates to officers not getting warrants because there was no case law to guide us on what we needed to do. And so now there is. So now we know we need to get warrants to get information out of this thing. This is the thing to be scared of. Your TikTok account is the thing to be scared of. Me taking a picture of the back of your car driving down Northern. Yeah, I guess if I was really bored, and I promise you I'm not, I could put together that Chris Noller drove down this street. 20 minutes later, he was on this street. 30 minutes later, he was over here. What does that really tell me? Not a whole lot. But if we have a shooting in the 1300 block of Elm and a vehicle drives past one of our ALPRs immediately after that in the vicinity of there, now we got a lead. Doesn't mean we go there and snatch that person up because we have to prove that they were actually there. But it gives us a lead. And we have solved a number of drive-by shootings and a number of homicides because of that very thing. So I don't know how I got on this and why you let me go on so long, but that's where I'm at.
Chief Miller,
One more thing real quick. I just gotta add this.
I have one more.
Can we just, is there a chance that we might be able to come up with another terminology for a drone being a first responder? There's a big difference to me and you guys on the street. When you come into a crime scene, you're dealing with human beings and people. And when one happens to be out there and giving a hug to, I mean, they don't see this kind of stuff on the street. A
Can I
drone
be
is
a
not
little
first
bit funny
responder.
really quick?
Well, the first responder, unless it's turning into a transformer and jetting itself
Yeah.
down and giving me a hug.
Well, I'm
maybe
gonna
it's
use
me,
a little
but-
bit of humor to address your question.
Okay.
We're not offended by that because the firemen call themselves first responders too.
Oh, God. The war is on.
I was looking at the fire chief when I said that.
Sorry, chief.
But I think it's just a term. It doesn't bother us any.
I like eyes in the sky, whatever, but that's not a real first responder to me. That's just my opinion. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Counselor. Chief Miller, I have two
I have
questions.
a question.
Oh, okay, Counselor Dante?
Okay, Chief Miller. First off, the document you have with the 60 questions, that came from a constituent who's been doing a lot of research on this. So if there's something in there that they say negative towards you, that was not me. Another question I have is, what percent of your budget is paid for by the police tax?
So the budget that we are talking about right now is the general fund budget. So none of what I've talked about tonight is related to the public safety sales tax, which is, it's about 4.5 mil. Well, I don't think it's that high anymore. I think we're at like 3 million in the PSST. We're using about $700,000 of that to buy cars this next year if that budget is approved. I'll lead with that if the budget's approved. The majority of our Axon contract, which is about $800,000 a year, is paid for out of that fund as well. And then there's salaries that are paid for 20 officers and 4 sergeants. Yeah, 4 sergeants and 20 cops, as well as their overtime. So that eats up quite a bit of that budget. Now, I'll be honest with you, if it wasn't for the public safety sales tax, I don't know how we would have cars today. Because in most departments, there is a line item in the budget for fleet replacement. And at so many miles or so many years, the departments rotate that fleet out in order to maintain their vehicle fleet. The PSST prior to that, we had to do, I think we did leases for 10 or 15 cars. I think that was under Mayor Gradisar, and maybe prior with the former city manager. But that's how we paid for that stuff. I hope I answered your question.
You did. Now I have one more question and then I'm done. Is there anything specific that you are not allowed to use that police tax money for?
The money has to obviously be used for police purposes, law enforcement purposes, but I don't think we can use, other than the 24 personnel, I don't think we could use it to pay for more personnel without approval, but we can use the other monies for operational stuff, as far as I know. Maybe Ms. Sykes can answer that.
It has specific parameters on what you can use the funds: technology, cars, operations, and then the 24 officers.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
So I just had a couple of questions and then we can move on. I promise they won't be long. And they're kind of relevant, pretty relevant. You had mentioned in your presentation, Chief Noller, that your goal was to create a collaboration with the Sheriff's Department. And I believe there was about a month ago, a meeting and ordinance that we passed about trespassing. And in that conversation, there was something that got brought up about some kind of partnership with the sheriff and the jail. And I know that we've had a lot of conversation. I think this might be another topic for a work session, but is that contract something that we need to, is it pending, and is that going to be needed and be included in this budget?
That's a MOU is what it is between us and the county on how much we would pay for incarceration in overnights or whatever, however you want to say it, in the jail. It also is something that we are working toward to allow us to take individuals to jail for certain municipal offenses. So what'll happen is it'll kind of be like the olden times where when you broke the law, you went to jail that day. So it'll be kind of cool, but it's only going to be for certain offenses. Theft over 300, I think, property damage over 300, trespass, disorderly conduct with fighting and battery, which is our municipal version of assault, 3rd-degree assault. So we'll be able to jail individuals for those things if that MOU goes through. Now there's been there was a pause for a long time, and then just recently I've heard that the MOU conversation has sparked back up I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but there's some positive look on that. I don't know that we need to put it in the budget, because I mean, it's already coming out of my budget. So I pay for, even when the municipal court sentences individuals to jail, that comes out of the police budget. It has always been that way. And so we cover those costs right now. I think last year we spent about $400,000.
For the jail, it's about 30,000 a month.
Yeah, about 38,000 a month. I anticipate that going up, obviously, because we will be taking those offenders to jail. And even if they bond out, we'll be paying a day rate, which I think is about $77 a day for those. So I do anticipate jail costs going up. But right now, what we are able to do is use salary savings to cover those costs without increasing the budget.
Do you think that there's any opportunity for diversification within the staff or disciplines within the police department to help with those types of things? Like I heard you talk about CSOs, but maybe like if you're paying this much money to jail someone, like having somebody that you can take that person that could be on your staff that you can connect them to connect somebody to something that can help start the process of diverting that person.
Well, I think they've been diverted for the last 5 years, and I'd like to reavert them, I guess, to be honest with you. So I would not be in favor of hiring counselors to try to divert individuals for these offenses from municipal court. I think our state legislature has driven that for the last 5 to 8 years, and it doesn't work. And I think it's high time we go back to what does work, which is when you break the law, you go to jail. There are plenty of resources after jail that you can encounter and possibly get from the jail as you leave. And I don't mean to come at you, but I'm tired of the diversion. So I apologize if I was a little off the top rope there, but I don't think that would be something we would want to do.
Okay. All right. We are going to move on with our agenda. Councilor Gomez, did you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. I'd like to invite up Chief Huber. As Chief Huber's getting set up, I just want to take a minute to thank Chief Noller and our police department for all that you all do to serve our city. And I also wanted to take a minute to thank, I heard of something really nice in the community about the the fire department. They attended a question provoke response, a training out in the community this past week, which is focused on identifying when there is some concern for folks who might be having some suicide risks. So thank you all for participating in that. All right, thank you.
Thank you for that. Good evening, members of council, mayor, and we are happy to be lumped in with the drones and the police department as first responders. So this will be my presentation to answer your questions. So the fire department's operation budget is about $1.1 million. And right off the top of that, about 11% is just for the preventative maintenance type things that we have. Then after that, 450,000 of that is just to run our fleet. So it gets pretty thin pretty quickly as far as what we have to play with in the department and keeping it up to date. New asks, well, we really don't have anything new. Every year we try to get a new apparatus because of the NFPA requirements and the number of calls we go on and the number of hours we put on those. NFPA recommends they get taken out of frontline service after 15 years, made a reserve. We have one that's over that age and 2 that are at that age. So we're basically due 3. It takes 2 years to get an apparatus. So by the time we could get this budgeted, we'd be a little bit behind. The department, it continuously is trying to do station upgrades as we learn more about health and wellness. We also learn more about compartmentation within the stations and creating a healthier environment. The 3 new stations are fantastic examples of how that health and wellness works. We have some outdated stations that need upgrading, including 3s, 5s, 7s, and Station 1. Some old items that we put on the agenda every year is paving in different areas. We all know that pavement has some wear and tear over the years. Some opportunities that the fire department did to explore or mitigate costs. We continually apply for grants. We have an internal grant team. We meet with the grant writer at least once a year to talk about our goals for the upcoming year and what's available. This internal team is constantly searching for what could be available out in the community to help with some of our costs and some of our expensive items. Some of the other things we do is we continually look at what we're paying for as far as those maintenance items, getting new RFPs or quotes to see if we can save money that way. We prioritize what our needs are by getting what we absolutely need, but we're trying to span out our replacement items so we don't have to get everything for every station all at one time. And we do have, as the mayor stated in the early part of this meeting, one frozen position, and that's an administrative captain. Transfers from outside the budget, well, that was a not applicable type of answer. Goals and challenges for the department. Well, the goals are to continue to provide the best customer service we can in a responsive time to this community and provide a good public education. But the biggest challenge is the same thing that everybody experiences in their day-to-day lives. The cost of living has gone up and the cost of items has gone up, but we have to do more with either the same amount or less. We added an additional station last year, but our budget remained flat, so it kind of was a little bit more of a cost than the 15% cut. We're maintaining at the needed level as best as we can, but we really don't have room for too many upgrades. We have to be careful about making those selections. And I think PD captured it very well. When a request comes across the board, you look at it, you look at the priorities and what the costs are, and you try to make the best decision with what you have left in your budget. This is just an example of this year's budget and fuel costs. We all know how much fun fuel costs are this year, and we're already over budget in that line as of this year because of those additional costs. We still have to respond to calls, so it's basically the cost of doing service. This is just a list of some of our common contracts that we have that is part of that 150,000 that goes out the door right off the top at the beginning of the year. Some exciting projects we have going on is we're looking at changing out the AFFF out at the airport on our rescue firefighting trucks from a PFAS type foam, which is that forever foam, and you're going to see an ordinance next week on that, or a resolution, I apologize. And that's going to be safer for the personnel and the environment. Station 5, we're working on improving it kind of like the newer stations to create that decon corridor where we're not bringing contaminants into the house where they live. Station 3, same thing. Both are in the design phase. Actually, both designs are about 100% completed, but we won't have the funding to get to Station 3 probably for the next year or two. We're hoping to do Station 5 within the next year. And Station 1 is on hold. And that concludes my report.
Councilors, questions? No questions? Thank you. Time. All right. Thank you, Chief. Oh, yeah, the hands.
I have a
Oh.
question.
Thank you. Counselor Dante.
Yes, could you talk about how the new tax that's coming out on the ballot, how it's going to affect your budget if it passes?
Yeah, that's a great question because that would give us the opportunity to push these capital improvements we need forward, and especially the apparatus costs, and to put the equipment on those apparatus is very expensive. So that tax could be used to keep that fleet in a good life cycle and also get these station upgrades completed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Thank you. Okay, moving forward with our agenda, I'd like to invite up Andrew Hayes, Mr. Hayes, for Public Works. Okay. Mr. Hayes, once you're ready, we'll acknowledge for 15 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of council, mayor.
Thank-
The presentation is over. Chief Huber just mentioned that pavement wears out over time. That's basically our presentation tonight too. So we're going to talk roads in a minute, but I want to kick this off actually at the very beginning. All of you have met Molly Evans, our Deputy Director of Public Works, but many in the community haven't met her yet or seen her on camera. So here she is, but I want to take just a second to acknowledge that she's here. She's been filling in here for 6 months now. And digging in, obviously get into our programs and understanding the infrastructure here in the city and learning all there is to know about Pueblo. So first things first, just want to start off with our overall kind of budget picture. The site picture shows 8.8 million is the operating budget there. We split that across 6 divisions and about 57 full-time employees. Those are divided according to those divisions that you see listed there. In 2027, we are not proposing any particular changes given the budget situation that we have. With respect to new asks, again, as the mayor alluded to in her opening, there are no new asks this year. With respect to cost mitigation measures, one of the primary ones that we've undertaken already is that we have 13 staff members that 13 staff positions that have been frozen. That represents about 20%, a fifth of our entire staff has been frozen. So when we talk about when work and how work gets done, this is the heart of the Public Works Department, is the people getting projects done. So this is, in this case, not in any particular order, not in terms of wage, not in terms of importance, but the list of people that are list of positions that are not filled at this moment. So you can see up there, there's at least, I believe, 4 engineers or 3 engineers. You've got a whole lot of utility workers and equipment operators in streets departments and traffic departments. Out of our facilities department, which is 10 people total, 2 of those positions are frozen, so I'm down to 8. That's 1.5 million square feet of building space. Typical home might be 3,000 square feet, just to put that in perspective. But having 10 people in specialized trades to take care of that many building, about 300 facilities and about 1.5 million building square feet, that's unheard of and it's unprecedented. When we look at the county, when we look at other agencies, that number is much closer to, much higher for having the coverage we need in order to maintain those facilities adequately. The question about outside budget transfers, again, this is not something that would normally happen in the normal course of business. That here we're talking about budget transfers between departments. That would be unusual. Within the department, there are budget transfers to, cover expenses within from streets to sweeping to engineering or those kinds of things. But in outside budget transfers, there are none. With respect to needs, goals, and challenges, I highlighted for you just a minute ago about what is the heart of a public works department, what is the heart of any city department probably, but public works in particular gets work done with people. In our case, people call during the summer, especially right before a state fair, and they want to see weeds cut. They want to see grass trimmed. They want to see trash picked up. I have 2 weed trimmers. 2. 500 miles of road we maintain. 2 people with weed eaters out there any given day. 3 street sweepers. People complain that their streets aren't being swept. We have 3 for 500 miles of road. That's 1,000 miles of curb that need to be swept. I have 1 carpenter, 1 electrician, 2 HVAC techs, again, for that 300 city facilities. That's that 1.5 million building square feet that we talked about. When we talk about inspectors for construction projects, normally you'd have a construction management division that just handles that function alone. And those inspectors would be dedicated to the specific capital projects that are on your list. In this particular case, we have 3 inspectors that are handling not only those projects, but every single inspection for permits, every subdivision, every commercial site plan, everything that gets built in the city that requires public works inspection. It's handled by those 3 inspectors. I have 1 admin tech that manages over 2,000 active permits a year. 2,000. That's 8 permits a day on average. It's a lot. And so when folks I guess, understand why things take a while or why projects take a long time, they need to understand that this is the why. Bottom line, end of story. With respect to equipment, one of the things that we've done in the last couple of years here, let me remind council, I guess, 2 years ago, we had $10 million in our road budget, in our road paving budget. This year, we're a little bit closer to 2 point. We'll get to that. It's coming up before I lie to you. But one of the things we did do last year, 2 years ago, I think, actually, was we purchased a new Mastic truck. That Mastic trailer actually allows us to go out and do some better quality road patches. So previously, when we had potholes, we were out doing cold patch. Those patches were relatively fragile. So when snow and rain would come, plows would come and blow those potholes back out. We'd end up having to go repair them 2 or 3 times. This particular machine allows us to make a high quality hot mix asphalt repair, 1 shot, 1 kill, and we've got those potholes fixed. Half of the vehicles that we've got are older than 2005. So that's 21 years, in case we're still counting. Traffic paint truck that we use every summer to go out and stripe lines. So every July overnight, people wake up and they see bright new yellow lines, white lines from our traffic department. They've gone out and painted about 200 miles of road every summer. But they do that for about a month and a half. And so that's how that gets maintained. But that truck is from 1991. It's been babied. It's well taken care of, but it is aged. And at some point, it's going to give up the ghost too. We have a flatbed truck from 1985, and it wasn't very long ago. We had a motor grader from 1977. So we are getting our money's worth out of the equipment that we're entrusted. If there's anything tonight that you leave here with, I need you to understand this next set of bullets. This deferred maintenance. That is correct. There's not an extra zero on there. We have deferred $100 million worth of road repairs. I'll say it again, $100 million. That is 2/3 of the city's annual budget in deferred maintenance cost for our 500 miles of roadway out there. What that means is we have deferred crack sealing, surface coat sealing, mill and overlay, or rebuild of roads in the ballpark of at least $100 million that has not been done. These are bills that are going to come due for all of us. When I got here in 2021, the number one citizen concern in the annual survey that was done was road conditions. 2 years ago, we had $10 million a year, and that was unprecedented at that time. We had previously had about $5 million a year going into road maintenance. With those 2 or 3 years, from 2021 to 2024, we had the $10 million a year. And we were seeing a lot of road projects getting done all over town, east side, west side, north, south, downtown. But these last 2 years have been very, very slim. You remember for those on the east side through Belmont area, there's a road called Bonfort, right in front of the old fire station number 8. There was a project there. It was an emergency project. And so at the very end of winter, that road basically blew up and there were potholes out there. We were out there paving every single night, patching potholes for about a week and a half until we could get this emergency project fixed. Those kinds of conditions are extremely disruptive. They take every crew member we have off of anything else they could be doing and doing those kinds of repairs. We had that project already slated to go and get fixed that next paving season. So it was the very first thing out the gate in the spring. But that was a rough period there where we were trying to get through that project. That's just an example of what is going to continue to occur as we underfund our road budget. I also want to point out that $25 million to repair city facilities. That is a deferred number. That is the amount of preventive and repair maintenance that's required to keep our facilities in usable, serviceable condition going forward. So again, that's a hump to get over. That's not how much it costs every single year, but that's the bulk of what has built up over the years in deferred maintenance for those facilities. So for those that were here at the time and may have heard this pitch before, but in 2022, we did a citywide road condition assessment. So this was for pavement condition. There's a factor called PCI, Pavement Condition Index. It ranges from 0 to 100. And it provides a benchmark. Essentially, these aren't just guesses, but there's a criteria for what makes a road a 60 or a 70 or an 80 or whatever. across our network in 2022, based on that assessment, we had a network average pavement condition index of 62, which is a fair number, fair. So you can see on the far right-hand side, excellent, good, fair, poor, and fail. The other thing that we got out of that assessment was that we needed about $10 million a year just to maintain our PCI. But what is actually happening in that was that the roads were actually getting worse. We'd get some roads repaired, and we'd have some good and some excellent, but you'd see a lot more drop into that poor and fair category. So that middle ground where you see a lot of yellow on this map, you'd start to see a lot more red and orange with a few more greens dotting the map. So the average would stay the same, but you've really got more outliers out there. What we consider a kind of average life cycle for a road on our local and residential streets is 20 to 30 years. And our arterials and collectors, they don't last as long. Obviously, they get a lot heavier traffic, a lot more traffic on them. So they're about 15 to 20 years. And so using those numbers, we're able to project how much we need to spend in a given year to maintain that pavement condition index going forward. As mentioned, we have about 500 miles, that's center line miles of road. And what we're talking about here on this 1461 lane miles refers, it's trying to give you a sense of how much asphalt there is out there. Roads like Troy or Northern, 4-lane roads, obviously wider roads, there's going to be 2 or 4 lanes for every center lane mile of road out there. Lots of our local streets, however, are just the 2 lanes, of course. But we do have quite a few arterials and collectors that have more asphalt down. So that's why that number's a little bit higher. Okay. There's the number. So when we were talking about this road maintenance, our capital budget in 2026 here was $2.7 million. That needs to be put in perspective. It may sound like a lot of money, but again, we are behind $100 million. So chipping away at that $100 million, 2.7 at a time, we are a long ways away from whole. The average cost to rebuild 1 mile of road, and rebuild meaning we're talking about digging out the asphalt, digging out the sub base, rebuilding that base, and repaving a road, $1.6 million a mile. When we mill and overlay a road, that means just taking a milling machine, grinding down that surface 2 or 3 inches, and replacing that surface so you get a nice, fresh, smooth asphalt surface. That's most of the repairs we were doing in the last 4 years. Those are about $520,000 a mile. And when we're talking about sealing, we're talking about a spray seal coat over a road surface here. That's $175,000 a mile. We typically would do those on kind of our local streets that get a little bit less traffic to help keep that asphalt condition up. One other important kind of point here in the operating budget, we've got this number of $79,000. That's kind of pothole repair. $24,000 of that was just spent on material alone on cold patch. So those dollars are very important. They obviously are the things we go out and try to make immediate repairs when we get potholes reported to us. But we're going to start seeing the demand for that climb as our road conditions continue to decline. In terms of capital projects requested for 2027, there are several here, but city building repairs, there's an annual account called CIAN 20 that is the fund from which we draw dollars for capital projects on facilities to make repairs for HVAC, for roofs. Well, let me start for HVAC, for building systems. There is a separate project account for roofs that typically is funded through insurance claims. So I don't want to confuse those two. But if there was not an insurance claim on a roof and it needed to be replaced, then we'd have that money come out of the CIAN 20 as well. Citywide cleanup is the money that we've used in the past several years to hold our twice annual cleanups in October and May. Also to dispose of debris that's picked up on through our community cleanups, through cleaning up the jungle area, through cleaning up along Fountain Creek. All of those funds or all of those activities are funded. Much of it is funded through the citywide cleanup account. We've also got greenhouse roof repair, the construction of a sand and salt storage facility for streets. That's to store our wintertime materials for sanding and paving, or sanding and salting our roads in the winter. And then this unsafe building demolition, that's our CIAN 23 account. That particular account, again, goes to fund the demolition of dangerous and blighted structures that may come up. So all of those were projects that were requested for 2027. And that looks like that's the end. So we'll take any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Counselors, do you have questions? Counselor Latino, and then I'll go
Yes.
to Counselor Boston.
Ms. Evans, welcome to the city of Pueblo. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I'm happy
Mis-
to be here.
Mr. Hayes he'll be able to talk to you about me as it relates to some things and because we talk a lot about a lot of things. Major concerns, obviously, the major arterial area in this community is a priority. But we have areas on the east side, in particular Goat Hill, Smelter. We have an area down there now with Mission Foods, and as some of you are well aware, the corporate office here in Pueblo may very well be moving. I did meet with them this morning out in Blend, and as so did the current director of Petco, and visited with them a little bit, and hopefully we'll have some more conversation about this. We don't want to lose businesses. We want businesses to come here. So a key obviously is the arterial areas. In fact, it was Dennis Flores that I met with a gentleman out in Blend this morning. With regard to the area, and Mr. Hayes, you and I have talked about this a number of times. We know it's in the state's hands, supposedly. They're not doing anything, and I'm getting people talking to me about, why isn't the guardrail being painted? Why aren't we doing something with we got the irrigation system, we have the trees planted, and when we got weeds growing everywhere between City Center Drive and where at one time River went all the way to Santa Fe. In addition to that, we again, if you come up City Center Drive, meaning going east to get onto the freeway, I-25 or coming off, you see, it's not a good first impression of the city. I mean, a lot of people look at the city itself from the standpoint of how it presents itself visually. They're not worried about the crime at that point. I mean, they're going to be concerned about that if they live here, or if something happens to them. But the first impression of this city is the view and what you see, and those are major concerns of mine. Again, coming off, going on I-25 from City Center Drive, those kinds of things, and obviously, supposedly the state it's now in our hands, meaning Public Works, and I know you got your hands full, but we got to do some things as it relates to the aesthetics of this community. It's a major concern. It's a major concern. Not only that, we got crime, and et cetera, and the image is not good. So if you can help us with that would be great. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Look forward to working with you, ma'am.
Counselor Boston?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've already been working with Molly. She's great. I had a question for you guys. I don't like taxes. I don't like tax increases, but if a RTA or the proposed administration sales tax were to go through for roads and infrastructure, what is the ramifications that would have for you guys, or the impact that would have for your department? Would that be enough? Would you need more? What are you capable of handling workload wise? Can you answer all that?
Sure. Let me just start off with fundamentally, I think it's an extremely important concept to get our heads around the idea that we need to have a dedicated, infallible source of revenue to pay for roads. They're never going to get privatized. They're never going to be somebody else's problem. They're going to be the roads that we all drive on. And public roads don't go away. The conditions don't get better with time, contrary to popular belief, maybe. But I think what we just talked about, right? In the presentation, that 2022 assessment, we arrived at a number based on a model that said about $10 million a year in 2022 was what was required in order to maintain our average. It really wasn't quite that. It was more like around $12 million a year in order to maintain the actual condition and actually get over the hump within some reasonable amount of time. That was then. Those asphalt costs have gone up. The cost of construction and labor have all gone up. And so those numbers that we just presented tonight on the cost per mile are more indicative of the costs we're going to see going forward. So the challenge, I think, with our current road funding situation, we've had a couple of different tools, right? We've had the street repair utility that voters voted for in 2017. That provided about $2.5 million a year up and through 2021. 2022 and beyond, the fees collected have been suspended. That's why folks have not seen it on their water bills for 4 years, 5 years. And so there's been zero collected on that front because nobody has been paying that bill. With respect to the predominant source of the funds this past 2 years, those have come from HUTF or state dollars that are allocated to cities based on the number of miles of road they have in their inventory. Again, that provides around $2.5 million is what we've been putting toward these roads out of the HUTF fund. So for the years that we had the additional amounts, the $10 million a year, that was about $7.5 million that was coming from general fund money that was either from ARPA sources or from other funds that were made available to make this happen, from the debrucing that was done back in 2022. So when those funds were expended, there's nothing left now. There's no trust fund for the roads coming from the city. So again, I emphasize that it is extremely important to make sure that we have a source of funds dedicated for roads to continue to take care of those. We're never going to get rid of our roads. With respect to our workload capacity, right? Project management is a function of how many projects you have on the books and how many staff and inspectors and whatnot you have to go out and oversee that work. In our current state, I mean, that's going to be a difficult ask, right? We have 3 inspectors doing a whole lot of work, but we would also be likely staffing to man up for the project list that we have. So if we're going to fund roads, we're going to make sure you know how much you need in construction management oversight on those projects and how much we would need to dedicate toward that purpose. We do not want to go just, I guess, issue contracts for work that we don't have the capacity to oversee. That would be irresponsible. So we're working, I think, pretty hard to make sure that we've got highly qualified inspectors on site that are well trained, that know what they're doing when it comes to asphalt inspection. We also have other types of work that go on our road projects like stormwater and water and concrete. So all of those different kinds of things are also part of those projects. And so we need specialized folks that know those particular systems in order to do the work properly. I don't know if that fully answered the question, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good enough. Oh, you only missed one thing. How would an RTA impact your department?
So the concept of an RTA, what you're referring to is the Rural Transportation Authority. That is a concept that is authorized under state statute that would allow for the creation of a district essentially that would raise taxes to pay for road improvements. Colorado Springs has this an RTA. It's called the Pikes Peak RTA. I believe they're raising, if I'm not mistaken, around 1% in sales taxes that goes into a fund that pays for a specific list of projects. They actually have their funds divvied up into a couple of different categories. One is for this specific list of capital projects. The other is a portion of the funds raised go to maintenance. Some of it goes to a transit. And so they have opted to set this up in this way. The RTAs are flexible in the ways they can be funded. They're flexible in the ways that they can be set up so there's accountability to see that projects that are committed to are being done. I think that's one of the strengths of the Colorado Springs model that exists. But an RTA that, if you set up a funding mechanism that raises 1% tax, you're probably talking $12 to $15 million a year in revenue that could go towards paying for roads. That's in the ballpark of where we need to be just to maintain our pavement condition index. If all of that went to maintenance, it would certainly be a big help.
Thank you.
Councilor Gomez.
Yeah, this is a chance for me to learn a little something here. I'm just curious, in your opinion, you've been doing this long enough, I think now. are we prioritizing the right things in reference to returns? And again, I'm not putting the blame on anybody. I don't think anybody intentionally wants to do this kind of stuff to hurt the city. I just don't believe that. Are there projects that we could prioritize, other projects that would return something in maybe revenue generation, some kind of form that we're not doing, whether it be the airport first, maybe look at the Mineral Palace Park, those kind of things that are visible in your estimation? I mean, I don't want to make it I'm not trying to trick you. I'm just trying to learn.
So your question, I think, the underpinning question there is about how do we prioritize work? Let me just within the Public Works Department, within roads, let me go back to this map.
Okay.
So again, this inventory, this assessment that was done gave us the condition index for every single road that we have in the city's inventory. Generally speaking, when we prioritize those roads, we prioritize them based on two things. Let's call it condition and traffic volume, right? Are the two main factors, right? So if we're talking about a road that gets 10 trips a day on it, it's probably not going to be prioritized as high as Northern Avenue or Troy or any other main arterial or collector roadway in the city. When we are talking about condition, we are talking about that cost per mile that we just talked about, right? It costs a lot less per mile to do crack sealing and sealing. It costs a little bit more per mile to do the mill and overlay, and it costs a lot.
Say the last thing.
The mill and overlay. That's the grinding and resurfacing of a road, as opposed to rebuilding a road, which would dig out an entire road, put in new road base, recompact, rebuild that road essentially. So each of those are orders of magnitude more expensive as you get to a higher degree of repair that's needed. What we don't want to do, I guess, is wait until the road needs to be rebuilt to start doing maintenance. We want to try to take care of that asphalt at the time it can be sealed, to defer how long.
Are we
that
behind on any
condition
of
is.
those projects, Andrew?
Have we been doing?
Are we behind on any of those particular
100%.
projects?
We are way behind on all of those projects. So,
And could you give it?
so that number I was giving you with the $100 million of deferred maintenance, what that's referring to again is this is the body of work that has not been completed, that exists today, that we could go out and do if the funds existed, if the contracting capacity existed, if the contractor capacity existed. If you gave me $100 million today, we would be back up to where our roads were going to be in good serviceable condition, where everything's in that good level of payment condition index rating. So that's not realistic. That's not what I'm really asking, but you need to know what that volume of work is. And every year that we defer, and we're only paying $2.7 million this year, that's about $10 million less than we need in any given year to maintain the roads that we have. Does that help? I guess
It hurts.
It
Don't
hurts,
help.
right?
It hurts.
Well, and it's the element, what it becomes down there, and it's an exercise in what are we prioritizing? Where can we get the biggest bang for our buck? And that's exactly what this study was all about. It was trying to help us identify the condition of these roads and to catch those roads before they fall off into that next category of maintenance being required. It's way, way more expensive to mill and overlay than it is to seal coat a road. It's way more expensive to rebuild a road than it was to mill and overlay. So we want to catch them before they fall off that next cliff.
So the
And that's why
condition
some
of a
roads
road,
that are really bad, like Lakeshore,
right, my favorite road.
That's why that road is not going to get any worse, so to speak, right? We got to maintain and get it, but it is not going to be a road that is likely to be a high priority because of traffic and because the condition isn't going to get any worse. It's not going to cost us any more next year to do than it is this year.
Okay.
I hope that helps
So
explain some of the
conditions
theory
tied
behind
to
that.
the probably and use as well, I guess.
Very much.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Counselor Dante, please.
Yes. Hi, Molly. Hi, Andrew.
Hello, ma'am.
If the road and infrastructure tax passes, how many years would it take for you to do all the major roads that need to be done?
So if I'm remembering correctly, I believe that's something like $5.5 million a year that would raise. It's a portion of what we need, but it's not the whole amount. So we're talking about the ballot measure that's being considered, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's not a full 10 or more million a year that we would need in order to maintain the roads. But it is a step that would replace, for instance, the lost revenues from the street repair utility that would also be completely eliminated. So it will help, but it is not the end all solution. I think it's about 55 to 60% or so of what the annual need would be.
That's pretty good, actually.
It's better than where we are today.
Yes. Now, there's another tax that we received from the state called the gas tax.
Mhm.
And so would you put those toward the major roads, or would you think about putting those toward the main entrance streets that go into the neighborhoods that need repair?
So the gas tax you're referring to is what funds that highway user trust fund. So that's the HUTF money we were referring to earlier. That HUTF money comes in a couple of different, there's HUTF and there's another smaller block called FASTER. HUTF can be used for a lot of different roadway types of projects. It can be funded, it can fund equipment, it can fund all kinds of things. But we've historically put about $2.5 million into road maintenance projects that are been funded out of HUTF. Every bit of the capital projects that we have in the last 2 years has been funded from that for roads. The FASTER that I just mentioned is a smaller block, and I don't have the number off the top of my head of how much that is, but it can be used for transit safety projects. It can be used for bridge repairs. So it's fenced off for some very specific transportation or transit related projects, but it is not as permissive, I guess you would say, as the HUTF dollars.
Okay, well, what about the EV fee? Do we get any of that back?
Say it again, the ED fee?
No, electric vehicles?
Oh, so I don't know how that shapes into the state's funding through the HUTF dollars. To my knowledge, I don't know that we're getting anything from an EV fee. Unless you're thinking of something specific and can help point me in the right direction, but
No, I just know that there's an EV fee out there and we could be getting money back on that.
if it's going into the state accounts, I guess, and as being applied toward road dollars, it's probably coming back to us in the form of that HUTF fund.
But if it's going to the county on our car registration, we don't get any of that back.
Oh, gotcha. No, so those fees go either to the county or back to the state, depending on the nature of the fee and where it's sourced from. But the city does not charge any registration fees on vehicles. That's a funding mechanism the city does not utilize currently.
So on the neighborhood roads, I'm going back to that because I think it's important because I think there's a lot of people that are really wanting their neighborhood roads fixed. And I would like to see this tax to go through, the voters to vote for it. And I've heard from so many constituents that their neighborhood roads are a problem. The kids are having problems with their bicycles. The cars are having damage. So here's a question. And they did it in a neighborhood that I used to live in another city. Have you thought about using less money to repair the neighborhood streets in order just, how do I want to put this? What they did where I used to live is they took tar and then they put rocks on the tar and it worked real well.
I think what you're referring to is a chip seal treatment. So we've actually done that. So we did that in the Domega Homes neighborhoods, all the Crests streets down the southwest corner of town. We've also done this in the northwest corner of town, up north of kind of Eagle Ridge, and there's several streets back up there that also got that chip seal. I will say that it helps extend the life of the pavement surface. It is not like a full-on mill and overlay.
Right, I understand that.
Surface life of the roads that much, but it is a good seal coat and it provides a new wearing course. So it is somewhat effective in helping to smooth out some of those roads. We also did that on Goodnight between City Park and Dutch Clark. So those are all roads we've done chip seals on before.
And to do a chip seal, how much cheaper is that than doing the full overlay?
Somewhere between that 175 and 520 per mile.
Oh,
So
Okay.
I don't know how much cheaper exactly, but that is an intermediate treatment in between those two.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
President Ayla.
Thank you. Thank you for that report. That's good information. You know, I guess I'm only bringing this up because for the last 2 hours or hour and a half, it seems like every presentation we go back to, well, I sure hope that tax goes through. What's going to happen with the tax? It's just all part of the conversation. You know, my assumption when we came here tonight was we were going to talk about the budgets and how things are going, and it's turned into a pep rally for sales tax. All I want to say is that there's two sides to, or two ways to think about it. You know, I've never known, and I don't think in the history of government has a tax ever been implemented that reduced the deficit. Because what you hear here, what you hear here is even in this presentation, when you're talking about a road tax and what it's going to take to do it, what you heard mostly was the personnel it was going to take to implement that and the costs that will be involved in that. So how much will really be going to roads if a tax passes, and how much will be going to personnel expense because you're adding an additional layer of expenses because this specific tax passed? The Highway User Transportation Fund, how much is that a year?
You're talking about the dollars that are
How much
allocated to
does the
roads.
city receive in the HUTF every year?
2.5 million.
No, 2.5 million. That's it. So 5 years ago, it was 4.5 million and it's dropped 2 million.
That's in the highway user tax fund.
Huh?
That's in the highway user tax fund. It changes every year and we might not even be receiving
So it's dropped in half.
money. Danny can come talk to you about it.
I believe all in all, it's slightly over 3 million. So that's encompassing the HUTF dollars specific, the Vassar funds, which Andrew mentioned is specifically for bridges and transportation. A portion of that also is for not street paving, but street repair and maintenance. So these are our sweepers, our salt that we spread on the road. So altogether for the paving is around 2.5 million that we have.
Yeah, I didn't want to know. I appreciate that, but I just wanted to know the total amount, what the city gets.
3 million.
$3 million. And was it 3 million this year? And how much was it last year? And if you don't know that off the top of your head, I can go back to the budget and look and
It
see.
depends every year. So we get a different allocation from the
When does that
state.
allocation come out?
We haven't received it yet, have we?
We receive that typically late September.
September? Okay. That's all I wanted to say. I mean, I've talked about this for so long that, I mean, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to fund our street repair. We talked last year about a specific El Paso County or Colorado Springs approach where specific absolutes were identified and said, if we collect this $15 million from you as a community, this is what we're doing with the $15 million on these roads or whatever. And I don't know why that didn't come out or why we went a different direction or whatever, you know. A lot of this stuff ends up just being real open-ended. So you can get this money and you can use it on this qualifies, that doesn't qualify. I think what the community wants is their roads paved or their potholes fixed and you know, we need to figure that out and we need to figure it out. You know, the the deal we did many years ago on charging people for the street repair utility, we, just had no ability to collect the amount of money that we needed to make it happen. And it was a very unfair system that just didn't work. We haven't spent much time trying to figure out a different way. At least I haven't been involved in that. I mean, maybe you guys have done that, but I haven't seen it. I think your department does a great job. I think on your budget, you do a fantastic job. That's why we're here tonight, right? I think you do a great job, and that I appreciate the fact that you're doing so much and your employees are working very hard with these frozen positions. I appreciate the fact that you're working through that with those frozen positions, because it really helps the city out in the long run. And I hope that we get to a point in the near future where we don't have to do that, that everybody's back up and full blast and moving forward. But I think you should be commended for doing a good job and doing your part to make things happen. So I appreciate that.
Thank you for saying it. If I could answer your question too, you asked the question about how much would it take, I guess, to get back to a place where we could execute projects like that, the $10 million a year. We were doing that just 2 years ago, again, with about four additional employees. Some of the employees that were on there that had been frozen positions are in our facilities department or other things that don't necessarily directly go to the capital projects part. But somewhere around $600,000 is about the number that we'd be looking for in order to help man the construction management part of the organization, in order to get back to being able to execute $10 million a year in construction. So that's, it's not nothing, but it is relatively inexpensive compared to, I guess, the capital investment you're going to make sure that you've got the roads you need for the future. So thank you for asking the questions.
Councilor Arias-Gomez, I just want to add that we're here tonight, President Ayla, to present to you on questions that City Council came up with. These 6 questions that were distributed to all the departments have all been answered the same. This is not a rah-rah for a tax ballot measure, but the question was, what are your goals and how can we make this happen? And that's exactly what the departments are doing here tonight, is telling you what their goals are. And we don't know how we're going to make this happen. But what I can tell you is taxes have not been raised in the city of Pueblo in 50 years. And so I have a question for you. Is the price of a car the same today as it was 50 years ago? Councilor Boston, is the price of a burger the same as it was 50 years ago?
Beef's expensive.
We have to balance the ebbs and the flows of the government and what people pay for their services. And when we talk about not having specific funding sources for roads, for infrastructure, for fleet, for police budget, this is what we've been able to do to get creative. If you look at the updated ballot measures, they are pretty specific. And I do believe that the Public Works Department added in specific roads that would be paved first, based off of the 2022 consultant survey that was put forward. And I believe that's why Councilwoman Dante was asking about the inner city roads and how those were going to be paved if these roads were set specific. So we put specifics, just like council asked, into if these are funded, what will they pay for exactly? There is no give. This is, if this tax passes, these are the roads that are going to be paved. Same thing with the fire and technology, the non-departmentals. All of these ballot measures are very specific to what we would be funding. And so I just want to make sure that, the reason why we're here tonight is because City Council requested us to be here. They asked very specific questions of, if you had $1 million, what would you do, right? What are your goals for your department moving forward? And how are we going to come up with those funds to be able to continue the quality of life services that we've had? We continue to make cuts anywhere we can. I've cut probably 45 positions since I've taken office. And so to be able to have these conversations tonight for City Council and for the public, I've heard several City Council members tonight say that this was very informative and informational as it was when they attended the budget meetings, to get down and dig deep, and to see what we're gonna do past 2028.
Counselor Aliff. President Aliff.
Yeah, you make a good point on the price of things and how they're not the same. But if we're gonna compare apples to apples, 50 years ago, the city of Pueblo had a $45 to $46 million budget. Today, we have $140 million. $130 to $140 million budget. So the reality is, even though the price of cars go up, the amount of money into the general fund raised by taxes through the community has exponentially grown and got to a level that should be able to take care of the expenses and the upkeep of the community. No fault of yours or anybody here. The reality is that hasn't happened. 50 years ago, Pueblo was what, 98 to 105,000 people? Now you're 117,000 people, but your government's grown 3 times. And it's grown 3 times where? Not in fixing our roads. That hasn't happened in 50 years. Not your fault. Not anybody here's fault. Just over the last 50 years, they just kept putting off repair after repair after repair. And then sooner or later, you have dirt roads again. And that's, pretty much where we're at anymore, is that we're going to be back to dirt roads. My only argument is that when you talk about structural imbalances, the city of Pueblo has a huge structural imbalance based upon the amount of people that live in the city of Pueblo, Colorado, and the expenses that it costs us to maintain that size of government is disproportionate. And if we're not, I don't think I'm a guru. I don't think I'm a seer. I just think that I'm a common sense kind of guy that says, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me that your town grows 17,000 people, your budget grows 3 times, and we don't have enough money to do the things that are necessary to take care of our infrastructure. And, I think there's a way to fix it. We just have to be strong enough to fix it. That's all it is.
Counselors, any other questions?
Yeah, are we sitting on 7 million that we could utilize for the PD, or can we use any of this money?
Yeah.
7 million.
7 million.
I take that back. I'm sorry.
If you know where there's 7 million, please tell me.
I'll tell you as soon as I can. I'll write you a check.
I'm all ears.
Okay, seeing that we have no other questions, we'll go ahead and move on with the agenda, and I'd like to entertain a motion to move into executive session.
I'll entertain that motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we move into an executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS Section 24-6-402, Parent 4, Parent E, Parent I, and for a conference with the city attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS 24-6-402, Parent 4, Parent B. And the following additional details are provided for identification purposes. Economic development agreement with the Leonardo da Vinci Museum.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Nay.
The council will now move into executive session.
And 1 nay.
You get that, Mr. Clerk?
Guess 1 nay.
For the record.
One for the record? I don't want to do. Okay, I'm sorry. I withdraw. Okay, glad I withdraw.
What I'm telling you is that the 10 minutes.
The time is now 9:02 on August 17th, 2026, and I now adjourn this work session of Pueblo City Council.